We are called to order. This work session regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. Madam Clerk, if you could read the Open Public Meeting Act.
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of the September 13, 2018 work session regular meeting of the Franklin Township Council was provided as required by law.
If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing afterwards for the invocation by Councilman Will Gualtieri. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under
God, indivisible. Remain standing, please.
As we gather here today as members of the Township Council, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens or our community, keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world. I ask that we take a moment to remember events that happened 17 years ago. Also to keep them that are in the face of the storm that is barreling into the country, that they remain.
Madam Master Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Chase?
Here.
Councilwoman Francois?
Here.
Councilman Gualtieri?
Here.
Mayor Kramer?
Here.
Councilman Onijaka? Councilman Prasad?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Robinson? Councilman Vasanella?
Here.
Councilman Wright?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Wright called me just to let everybody know that he is on his way from work, so he should be here within the next, hopefully, half an hour or so.
Excellent. And Councilwoman, or Deputy Mayor Robinson just walked through the door. Thank you. Stay here. Excellent. Roll call. And I would like to acknowledge the devotion of our clerk being here. She's, as people will notice, her voice isn't up to speed, but she's dedicated enough to be here. We have several members of the Board of Education here. Of course, Councilwoman Sherman is here, and in the hallway I can see people still call me Mayor Levine, and Mayor Freeholder Levine is out in the hallway, though he can't hear me. Okay. Commendations and proclamations. Councilwoman Francois. This is a commendation for the Investors Bank. If the representative from Investors Bank, who's identified by the big check, if you could come on up. Nope. Oh, yeah, here we go.
We'll stand over here so everybody can see the big check. We do this every year, and it's important to do it every year because Investors Bank, we have a program here called the Franklin Youth Initiative that started back in 2007, and it was started based on some gang violence and some deaths of a couple children. And since 2007, Investors Bank has been giving us award of $10,000 a year, and they're our sole corporate sponsor for that program. And the program, yeah, let's give them a round of applause. We run that program on a shoestring, and I think it's really important to acknowledge the fact that with $10,000, we started a teen drop-in center over at the middle school. And our kids go over there after school, and we have after-school programs, and we have things to keep them out of trouble because we all know idle mind is the devil's playground. It doesn't seem like a lot of money, but we do a lot with that $10,000 to run that program. And so I just wanted to acknowledge Investors Bank, their local bank here, and give them a proclamation, and we do it every year in support of what you all do for us. This is greatly, greatly appreciated. And you don't know how positively it affects the young people's lives. So I'll read the commendation and I'll be quiet. Whereas when the Franklin Youth Initiative was started in 2007, it had very few children and very little funding, and its growth over the last 11 years is a testament to the strength of its programs and partners. Whereas FYI has been the key for improved school performance, lifted youth self-confidence, and increased life skills development, which leads to success of their goal of helping youth in Franklin develop into productive young adults. And whereas Investors Bank has recognized that FYI's great efforts require resources and has provided grant funding in the amount of $10,000 each year to continue expanding FYI's programs and services, as well as facilitating the necessary improvements to our drop-in center at the Franklin Middle School. And whereas the support of this grant through Investors Bank, FYI will be able to continue providing opportunities that help ensure positive lifestyle changes in and out of school. Now, therefore, we, Kimberly Francois, Councilwoman, and our Mayor, Philip Kramer, Mayor of the Township of Franklin County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, on behalf of the Township Council, do acknowledge and sincerely thank Investors Bank for their sponsorship and active part in enriching the lives of the youth of Franklin Township. Thank you so much.
On behalf of Investors Bank, we want to thank you. And one of our vision statements is about the community. And we are truly a part of this community and every community that we are in. So we want to thank you, and we will continue the support.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we now, to my best count, have 3 BOE members, a prior BOE member. Mayor Levine, I've already introduced you, and Mayor Kelly is now in the audience. Don't let the 3 of us get together. I think that's critical mass. Okay, we are now on to public discussion. Do I have a motion to open for public discussion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion on public discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We are open for public discussion. Anyone wishing to speak on issues relating to government may do so. Please state your name and address, and you are limited to 5 minutes. No yielding of time, and you may only come up once. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bernadette Moore. I live at 4 Norris Road here in Franklin Township. I just wanted to thank the council and residents who have supported us and the task force against the Northeast Supply Enhancement Project and against Compressor Station 206. I just wanted to let everyone know that that everyone's efforts are having an effect. The water permits had to be resubmitted, so that will take almost another year, and the final environmental impact statement has now been pushed forward and will not be available until January of 2019 rather than early October. So all the letters and phone calls and everything have been very helpful, and we appreciate everyone's efforts, and please continue to help us. And also, there will be a meeting of the task force on Monday evening, September 17th at 8 p.m. here in the municipal building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob LaCourte, 265 South Middlebush Road, here in Franklin. Mayor, council. I'm going to read a statement I am the chairman of the Republican Party in town, and this is going to be this is very upsetting to me. Republicans are a large part of the engine that makes Franklin work, especially when we work together as one. Mr. Rajiv, you and I worked on the 9/11 memorial quite a few years ago. You remember that we also, councils asked me and yourself to do the Memorial Day parade every year. You asked me to do the Veterans Day ceremony every year. If you're able to remember those things, perhaps you can remember specific examples of Republicans stating they do not, in your words, colored statues in town. I don't remember anyone saying that, and if you'd like, you can share any examples with any of us here what you meant by that. I do remember people talking about the use of open space and the secrecy of how you conducted yourself during this project. So now I'll give you some of my time, if you want, to give us, me, examples of Republicans acting as you say.
I would like to thank you for all the collaboration we've done in the past, and I have a lot of respect for you, and I regret that the personal email that I sent to an individual was Oprah'd and used out of context, but it was not meant in any way to be derogatory, and I apologize if that is how it came out. I believe in diversity, and I believe in you, and it was not meant to be disparaging of any Republican. It was, if you look at the full context of it, it was a Trump-emboldened Republican assault or dislike for, so that's the context under which it was said, and it was directed at somebody, so it was taken out of context. I was never asked for an opinion or a comment on it. It was just taken and printed. So I apologize profusely for it. If I upset anybody, I apologize to you. This is not what I'm all about. This is not what our town is all about. We believe in diversity. I've lived here for 41 years. I've raised 2 children here, and that is where to quote the mayor, we're the most diverse town in the country, and we all have to live in peace and harmony. And that's part of why the Peace and Nonviolence Memorial is what it is, because we would like to have that dialogue, and hopefully we can have a dialogue where people can resolve their differences and be able to work them out. So.
I'm going to continue because
Okay, please.
it's not right from there.
Okay.
3 years ago, you viciously attacked some residents who opposed the building of the Catalpa Park using the term Nazi and skinheads, and even calling the chief of police asking him to contact the FBI to intimidate them. Then in another text on the day before your election, you sent out the evening stating Republicans are suppressing the black and Asian vote. None turned out to be true. So much for peace and nonviolence. You need to apologize to Republicans in town, Democrats, and other citizens in Franklin. You need to apologize to the 8 other council members up there for the divisiveness they have to endure because of you.
Your time's up, Mr. LaCourte.
Can I get another 10 seconds, Mr.
If
Mayor?
you can finish up.
Okay. You need to apologize to the town for the divisiveness you have caused. And quite frankly, Mr. Prashad, finally, at the end of this meeting, if you have any shred of decency, you'll resign. Thank you.
Go ahead.
My name is Barbara Lawrence. I live at 383 South Middlebush Road. I've lived in the town for 38 years. Some of you know I've come before the council before advocating for the Franklin Public Library and for the cause of historic preservation. Tonight I'd like to say a few words about governance, good governance. My credentials include almost 20 years as a consultant for nonprofit organizations. I'm currently vice chair of the board of one of the largest museums in the state of New Jersey. To me, the governance process is something that is wide open and transparent if you're looking at excellence in governance. A proposal for something that is laudable, recognition of peace and nonviolence, should come first before the town as an idea. We would like to do this. We even have a donor who might help us fabricate a sculpture. And the town council, perhaps with a committee, perhaps with the Cultural Arts Council, would decide, does it want such a memorial? Should it be figurative or abstract? If it's figurative, who should be the people? For instance, there is a New Jersey leader, Alice Paul. This is a personal favorite of mine, hero of mine, who was an advocate for nonviolence in the fight for suffrage. She was a New Jersey native. She was the first to picket the White House. She was jailed, force-fed, along with her followers. This was a significant part of women getting suffrage. There are many possibilities of people who represent peace and nonviolence, and the selection of those people should be a part of a public discussion. What are the criteria, and who might they be? I'm not questioning that the group identified are not stellar examples of that, but it's not, to me, it's not good governance if the town didn't decide it. I'm not talking about a 2-year study, but in some public discourse about what would be the representation, what location would be the most visible and the most accessible, and how we should go about it in general. I also note from my not-for-profit experience that most boards have what's called a gift acceptance policy. And those policies identify the conditions under which an organization would accept a gift and when they would not. Because just because I say, I'm too lazy to sell my house, I'm moving, I'm going to donate it to somebody, they may not want my house. They may not have the expertise to manage it, to organize the sale of it. They would most likely come back to you and say, sell it first, give me the money. Or if I do want the house, say I'm an organization for the homeless and we could use this space, nonetheless, if it didn't come with some sort of endowment to maintain it in the future, or to install a sculpture, or to maintain and protect the sculpture, and make it as accessible as possible, then it would be in the prerogative of that board of directors, or in this case, the town council, to say, we appreciate your efforts, but we cannot accept this gift. So that there are many examples of ways to go about being transparent, open, and to exemplify good governance in the way in which new positive assets are added to the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sherman.
Thank you. Before I start, please, Madam Clerk, don't start the timer because somebody reminded me, here I am, it's a week before Franklin Day Festival, and that's why they thought I was here. I am not, but I'm not going to miss the opportunity. So if I may?
Madam Clerk, start the timer.
All right, well, that's it. All right, when I left the council in 2017, I was very proud of what I and the council had accomplished. And although we had our differences, large and small, we worked very hard to serve our constituents and provide transparency. The issues surrounding the Peace and Nonviolence Monument Park has awakened me from my dream and has left me concerned that the Franklin Township Council is in the midst of a potential crisis that can negatively impact the way we do business now and in the future. With only 5 minutes to speak, I have to write what I'm going to say, otherwise I won't say it all, and I have lots to say. The issues with the statue and Councilman Prasad, his advocacy for it, goes back to 2007, as researched by the Franklin Reporter and Advocate. It also was an issue when I served on the admin committee along with other council people, including Councilman Prasad. He was highly persistent about the project, bringing it up over and over again. It started out with a statue of Gandhi, then scope creep set in. It included Martin Luther King, and then further expansion includes busts of Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa. Add that to the scope creep for a need of 6,000 square feet of space, outdoor lighting, installing electrical lines, a parking lot, televisions, ongoing maintenance, and who knows what else will be added. The admin committee decided that an appropriate location for the statues would be identified, but there was to be no cost to the township for anything having to do with the statues, including maintenance. Will the benefactors of the statue commit ongoing contributions to pay for the list of items that I've already mentioned? Or is Franklin Township taxpayers going to wind up carrying the burden to complete and maintain this project to the tune of many thousands of dollars? In addition, I understand that a proposal was made that the township will be expected to take ownership of the Monument Park from the Franklin Township Community Foundation, an unvetted project that has been met with resistance for years and that was not supposed to cost Franklin Township taxpayers a penny, is now to be Franklin Township's responsibility. What will that cost? Usually, when a project of this size is being developed, a plan is put together before the components are ordered and scheduled for delivery. That seems not to be the way this process worked. The statues were not only ordered, but if they may already be delivered, if not, they will be soon. This was done without the proper vetting by the Township Council before the public made any comments. Why all the secrecy? Was Councilman Prasad afraid that if he brought the issue out to the light of day, that it would be defeated? Is that possibly why he chose to circumvent the process? Why the attempt to sneak a vote on this issue past the agenda process and not listing it? By leaving it off the agenda, some council members had no idea a vote was going to be asked that evening of the last council meeting. It was introduced during the council comments by Councilman Vasanella. That's not how a complex project gets voted on. I understand the council chamber was quite full with people who came up and spoke in favor of the project in an attempt to influence the council. I wonder, how did those people know to come and talk about the project that evening when some council members themselves had no idea that a vote was going to be called for? It seems to be a very underhanded attempt to ram the vote through. I have several other issues, but time is running out, so I will go on with my closing remarks. The park will not result in world peace, but if it brings solace to troubled hearts, it has value, but not at the price of subverting our democratic process in order for someone to achieve an end run by disregarding procedural rules that disregard previous agreements, that disregards the proper way to introduce projects for evaluation by the council. Don't be fooled. No park is worth subverting our open and transparent democratic process, and that's what's happening here. I rest my case.
Linda Powell, 22 Buffer Drive. Right now I'm speaking not only for myself, but as a member of the steering committee on the Franklin Township Task Force about the compressor station and pipeline expansion under Raritan Bay. As Bernadette mentioned, there's been a delay, thanks to all our efforts, of the announcement of the final environmental impact statement. And you'll find a letter in front of you, and I'll explain what that's about. We're hoping that all council people can sign it tonight, and again, be leaders in this environmental movement that I think New Jersey is also taking a lead in. In December 2017, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection determined that the threshold for hazardous air pollutants, you'll see this abbreviated as HAPs, needed to be lowered to protect human health, and the new standards were effective in 2018 in February. This is in part was due to address the air quality deterioration in New Jersey. The air pollution control permit that was issued for the Northeast Supply Enhancement Project, the proposed compressor station 206, was issued before these new standards were in effect. And what Williams Transco did was that they estimated emissions from one solar Mars 100 unit, when this project actually is proposing 2 units. And they would have exceeded the old standards of formaldehyde just from those estimates instead of actually testing. And since there has been no activity, their permit was issued on September 7, 2017, and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection can withdraw that permit since there has been no activity pertaining to that permit in a year. So we have a short window of opportunity to ask them to do that. To withdraw that permit that was under the old standards and make sure that any permits now are up to the new air quality standards. Well, the federal government is, and now I'm speaking for myself, the federal government has been doing a lot of things to reverse a lot of the gains we've made in environmental protection over the past 50 years or so. There also, since World War II is, I think, really the biggest applauding or allowing or of bigotry. And I feel that if the Republicans in this township, which I feel very different than I do about some of the people in the federal government, feel that this type of bigotry should not, that they do not support it. They should really be speaking up against that type of bigotry. You know, whether it's sexism or racism or against religion or sexual preference. I think that we really need to have not only an environment that is physically healthful for all of us, but I think that that the bigotry has to end as well. But anyway, I hope people sign this letter. We will have a table at Franklin Day, which is not this Saturday, but next Saturday, the 22nd. And come by and see what's new, because things change quickly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Robert Troutman, 13 Orchid Court in Somerset. In keeping with the theme of the evening, I want to encourage everyone to show up for Franklin Day on 9/22. I know the evil mayor here has cut off our former councilwoman's speech on that, but I think we need to go ahead and all attend that. It's a great event.
I'm evil to everyone evenly.
Well, that's not the case with everyone up there. I don't make it to many of the meetings here. I have a very demanding career. I have 2 young sons. Interestingly, my 5.5-year-old is at the age where he starts to get in trouble from time to time, and when he gets caught, his apologies are much like what we heard before, where he says something along the lines of he's sorry he got caught. And that's what we heard from Councilman Prasad before, was that he's sorry that he got caught. And I don't think we would have heard anything from him had that document not been submitted through an Oprah request by the Franklin Reporter. But other than to say I think Councilman Prasad must resign, I'm not going to address him. I'm going to address the rest of the council tonight. This issue is not about false claims of racism. It's not about statues, and it's not about memorials. It's about trust. And the trust between the governed and the governors is one of the most sacred things we can have. At this point, based on this issue alone, you all have lost our trust. And that's because you have not spoken publicly. Some of you have privately, but none of you have spoken publicly to condemn Councilman Prasad for his words and his actions. 3 years ago, we had this same issue with things being rammed down our throats, essentially, as Councilwoman Sherman said. So, in order to get this trust back, two things must happen. You must each demand Prasad's resignation tonight. And if he does not resign, you must take whatever formal steps are available to you to remove him from the board. And finally, you must not allow this park to be built. Again, this is not about peace and nonviolent statutes, but if you allow this park to be built at any time, you're condoning all of Councilman Prasad's actions as outlined by Councilwoman Sherman and has been reported extensively recently. It's not the way government works. And you need to do something about it. We've elected you for that purpose. You know, when you look at the fact that these statues were ordered before anybody voted on anything, we don't know what happened in that process. We don't know how vendors were selected. We don't know what quality of materials were used. We don't know, as was said, is this going to be a white elephant? Are we going to have something that's going to be subject to a high degree of maintenance because shoddy products were used with a second-rate sculptor? We don't know any of these because it was not vetted properly through the channels that are designed to make sure everything is done properly. I'll leave it with this, because I haven't seen this asked or answered anywhere. And Councilman Prasad, will you acknowledge today whether or not the person that donated these statues has also donated to any of your campaign funds?
Never.
Thank you for your time.
Evening, Linda Ramundi, 128 Harrow Drive, Franklin Township. I want to thank the council members for taking time from their private lives to represent our town. And I must say that right now I'm very much unhappy with the council. And I'm going to echo everything that several other people already said, probably not as eloquently as they did, because I didn't take notes, because when I'm angry, speak, but this Monument Park debacle needs to be addressed. I came to last month's meeting because on the agenda was the discussion of possibly allowing marijuana to be manufactured in our town. That was on the agenda. Instead, this meeting was hijacked by Councilman Prasad's friends who filled this entire room, and I sat here for over an hour listening to all these people come up saying why they thought it was a wonderful idea. Half of them didn't even live in Franklin Township. I wound up walking out because I could not sit here another minute. And then I watched it streaming. Thank you for the Franklin Reporter, because half of us would not even know what's going on in this town if it wasn't for you. So I was under the impression that after this debacle, the council approved the concept, not necessarily the actual plan. Is that correct? Okay. How on earth could you do such a thing when this man railroaded the whole thing? He ordered the statues. He decided who should be in the statues. He decided where it should be. No one in this town even was aware of it. It wasn't on the agenda, and once again, it's not on the agenda this evening. I don't know why. I was led to believe it was, and then it was taken off. You bet your buns there would be more people sitting in this room if it was on the agenda. So I would like to say, based on what the other three people already said very eloquently, do not proceed with this plan. Franklin is a very diverse community. We are advocates of peace and diversity. We don't need statues to say that. And we had no say in who is going to be represented in those statues. And as they said, how are they going to be constructed? If you want them so bad, put them in your own yard and resign.
So I'm going to interject before the next speaker. So the reason it was on the agenda and then not on the agenda, I don't want conspiracies to start. After what happened at the last meeting, I was going to be sure that it was going to be discussed, it would be on the agenda. From what happened at the last meeting, it seemed like it was going to come up again, so I told the clerk to put it on the agenda. When I then learned from the attorney that we were not ready to go that far, then I took it off the agenda. So if you want to blame me for that, you can, but it was in an effort to be as open as possible in that case. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is Robert Peterson. I reside at 66 Wilson Road in Franklin. I'm not going to repeat what everybody else here has said, except to just state my dissatisfaction with Councilman Prasad. In fact, I would go so far as to ask him, how dare he? He's a civic servant, civil servant. Doesn't serve his own purposes here on the board. Doesn't serve your own interests and the things that you want to do. This isn't some grandstanding platform for you to drive your own agenda, as valued or not. You may be convinced this is the right thing to do. But sir, you are part of a council. You represent the township. This actions you have taken are your own. My question and my concerns for the rest of you board members is, one bad apple can spoil the cart. And if you allow that council member to remain, you may choose to sanction him. I don't know what the process is. People have called for his removal from the board. I really don't know what the right course of action is. That's for you as elected officials to decide. I would just leave you with this. It seems our Councilman Prasad has a history that you must consider here as well. I have a statement, his apology from 2015 that was referenced earlier this evening, where Mr. Prasad says, as a public servant, I apologize for any lapse in judgment. I hope you can forgive me for it. So are we just to expect Mr. Prasad to constantly do and spout off and make accusations unfoundedly, to run his own agenda here, and for this council to be complicit? Thank you.
Bill Connell, 25 Spring Street. First off, I've said a lot. Anybody have any questions? I'm here to answer any question you might have. Anybody? You sure? You might want to say anything. Okay, let's go. All righty. The mention of September 29th reminds me of a highly significant day in my life. It will be the 30th anniversary of my father's death. He served in the National Guard and had a love of baseball. He had a very tactical frame of mind. Baseball is not just about hitting home runs. It's about delivering the right pitch and managing your base runners. As I see it, being on council is much the same. Manage your players or you will lose the game. As I look at the situation we are in right now, I'm reminded of the phrase my father was fond of, you effed this up to a fare thee well. That is the truth. You should step off the dais and sit in the audience and let someone more deft take the seat. I highly doubt that will happen. Nobody has shown any real leadership or management skills. Not council, not the Democratic chair, not the county chair. They have once again taken a wait-out mentality. I guess this strategy works because you have no voter accountability in Franklin, but they lose the moral high ground in the process. The Trump-emboldened Republicans' remark is offensive in its intent and context, but here's the real issue. The Democrats are not offering anything better. It's all the same garbage. It's all the same games. All I can do is comment on a local level and hope you lead by example. That's my base statement. If you look at the timeline of what the Franklin Reporter reported, it looks like when I was here in the spring or in May, whenever that was, you actually stepped on the gas, okay, and started moving faster and pushing this harder. And in the process of discussing the open space issues, the apology to the Open Space Committee, which I'm on, by the way, is almost like you threw staff under the bus in the process, like, well, staff didn't tell us, okay? The answer is, I was not aware. You voted on a $10 million bond, okay, for open space, but you were not aware, so you're equally as responsible as staff is. So even the apology to open space was incorrect in my mind. Open space offered an option. It was never seriously considered. And that's it. It's just, it goes on and on and on. There's lots of little things. And the whole thing bothers me, just like everybody else said. And last but not least, I never acknowledge the pipeline girls. I just want to say nice work, ladies. Thank you.
Good evening. Arnold Schmidt, 134 Hickory Road, Somerset. Franklin Reporter and Advocate recently reported that opponents of the proposed Peace and Nonviolence Monument Park are Republicans who, quote, don't want colored statues in town, end quote. This quote is attributed to an elected Franklin councilperson's Oprah email obtained by the Advocate. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but the inference is not pretty. To be clear, I'm a registered Democrat, and I oppose these monuments as currently proposed. I will now provide a few reasons regarding why I do oppose the monuments, none of which has to do with color. I believe the monuments belong on a private property or in a museum, as they are privately funded and they can be considered political and or religious monuments that don't reflect everyone's views, which can and already have created discord and disharmony, the exact opposite of their intention. Undeniably, there will be costs to the township, meaning our tax dollars, including maintenance, electricity, and other unforeseen costs for this apparent private enterprise pushed for the most part, by one council person and his private donors. Installing statues on public property will set precedent that will likely bite Franklin in the butt later on. How will the next privately funded request for a monument be evaluated to determine if it is appropriate to be installed? Will the criteria for the next monument be based on which political party is in power? If someone commissions a statue of President Donald Trump, fully paid for, and 100 people come to a council meeting using the same process being used now, and they say they want it installed on a public property, how do you say no to that? After all, he is our president, whether you voted for him or not. The fact that these current proposed monuments were commissioned and paid for with the intent of installing them on a specific township-owned open space property without the support of the Open Space Committee or prior approval of council indicates disrespect and disregard for proper procedures. Speaking of inappropriate procedures, it's been reported that part of the pressure put on council members to push this project forward has been based on emails by elected township personnel who inappropriately used personal emails for township business, possibly as an attempt to hide some nefarious intent, to help influence council members, to get the proposal passed. It's also been reported that the same elected official had been previously verbally warned by township officials about using personal email accounts for township business, on top of the fact that all elected officials are supposed to know this is inappropriate practice. This whole process has been done mostly in the dark with an apparent lack of transparency. Why the secrecy? What is there to hide, other than the improper emails and lack of adequate notification to Franklin residents prior to council discussions and votes? Even though many residents from Edison and other surrounding towns were provided plenty of notification of the meetings through some of these emails. This inappropriate activity apparently led to the council's August 14th vote to approve the concept for this memorial park, even though on the 14th, and never before, was this an agenda item. Based on a recent Franklin Reporter and Advocate article report, a state appellate panel ruled in 1978 that an action by a governing body should be voided, and I quote, where it can be shown that the governing body published an agenda calculated to mislead the public or otherwise intentionally omitted items from the agenda which it knew it would be acted upon. End quote. That ruling was cited again as recently as July 27, 2018, in a decision in an appellate court case. This is not a public safety issue that needs immediate attention, which may make a non-agenda item vote appropriate. The August 14th vote should be reviewed for its legitimacy and, if appropriate, nullified. I submit that no further council action should be taken on this project until all of these apparent inappropriate actions have been fully and properly scrutinized. I am asking again that you, our elected officials, hit the pause button on this project and that you take additional time for some more thoughtful discussion. Thank you.
Wow, this feels strange. Chip Hoover, Hoever, 9 Stallion Court. I'm back. I go away and look what happens. First of all, I can't say much more eloquently than Councilwoman Sherman said and these other folks said. All I can say is I'm disappointed. The theatrics at the August 14th meeting really kind of shocked me. And I do theater now. I'm actually have 2 shows on Broadway right now. So I was saying, wow, this is really good. Maybe I could put this on the stage. Because it was really disingenuous, to say the least. There were 2 folks who spoke at that meeting. They were very eloquent, Mr. Seaman and Beverly Lawson. They brought up some great points. You know, monuments don't create peace, and I have nothing against any of the folks there. I'm not a racist. I've been marching for peace since the 70s and the 80s, so don't ever call me a racist. But it just amazes me that we think that by putting up these 4 monuments, we're going to have peace. Ms. Lawson suggested we should do some projects, like support the food bank, the animal shelter, etc. One of the folks before me said, is this going to be a white elephant that the township is now going to have to pay for the maintenance of? Has anybody gone through the public safety building lately? Mr. Vornlocker? Okay. Has anybody gone through there lately?
Yes.
Are we going to do something about maintenance? I mean, I see we finally painted the facade of the building. That was, good. Then you did the photo shoot. But there's so much maintenance needed in this township that we're not doing. And I don't understand why, but yet we're going to start maintaining this new white elephant. Actions create peace, not monuments. Dr. Martin Luther King marched. He didn't put up monuments. Mahatma Gandhi went to folks and created peace. Mother Teresa went out and helped people. They didn't put up monuments. Who am I forgetting? The 4th one. Nelson Mandela, thank you. Went to jail for peace. He didn't put up a monument. So, I'm disappointed, folks. I am very disappointed in the way this council is acting. I'm very disappointed in Councilman Prasad. Know it. And to the person who spoke before about getting rid of council people. I think there's a way to do it. So I'll leave you with that thought. I'm the guy with the experience. Have a good evening, folks, and let your conscience and my voice be your guide. Thank you.
Mr. Desai.
I'm Chandrakant Desai, a resident of 1 Lindsay Court, Franklin Park, zip code 08823. Honorable Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen, I thought I have nothing much to say about the Peace and Non-Violence Memorial, but one thing appeals that, you see, there is a very strong support for that one. I see the 6 pictures of the great presidents and leaders over here. Out of these, 3 have been assassinated. Honorable Abraham Lincoln, John Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King, they are silently, strongly supporting it. We don't look to that one. Do we want them to be assassinated? Do we want peace? Do we want non-violence? What do we want? They are strongly already supporting it. We don't look to them, we don't understand them. There is a message from them, which is much stronger than anybody else can give it over here, or from this platform. They have contributed a lot to this country. And if they would not have been assassinated, this country would have got even much more than that. What do we want? Their strong support is there. Second thing, October 2nd is only 2 to 3 weeks away. It is the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi, and that is being celebrated as the International Non-Violence Day by the United Nations. So United Nations is also indirectly supporting our Peace and Non-Violence Memorial. So what kind of support we want for this one? And we keep on discussing every time the same thing. It has to be there. It is supported by them. It is supported by United Nations. What do we want? And third thing, as far as the donations are concerned, our municipality will not have any burden for that. One of the donors is my good friend. He is a philanthropist, industrialist, Piyush Patel. He wants to say that, you see, you won't be having any burden. You know what we want, what more we want. So I think I don't have to say. They are already telling what I want, what we want, what our nation wants. Thank you.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Long time no see. Sidney Lentz, 22 Cornelius Way. I'm battling Trump emboldened Republicans who don't want any colored statues in town. I'm battling Trump emboldened Republicans who don't want any colored statues in town. I'm mad. I'm a Republican, and I'll always be emboldened when I witness any type of discrimination or prejudice that you've demonstrated. I'm a Republican. I volunteered 30 years at a homeless shelter with people of color. I'm a Republican. I volunteer with our youth for 15 years. Don't tell me what I do or don't want. I'm mad. I'm very mad. I'm a Republican. How can you say that about me? Don't tell me what I do or don't want. Given your ignorance and your prejudice, I'm asking for your resignation. Will you resign? Given that, I'd like to know from the council, what's the procedure for removing a standing council member? Thank you.
Naomi Nierenberg, 24 Beverly Avenue. I'm a resident of Franklin over 60 years, and it's been a long time since I've come and addressed the council, and I felt tonight I had to come and be here. I know how the municipal government works, as I organized the first legal-owned voters in Franklin Township. I have observed the peaks and valleys of our municipal council service over the years, and for the most part, I have seen the growth and service to the community for the past decade. Probably after tonight, this is enough reason why I came tonight. The recent debacle of Councilman Rashid Prasad of the discussion of the Peace and Nonviolence Park has brought me here. This effort is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. The councilman is hiding behind the integrity and honor of 4 internationally renowned men to get what he wants, not what this council or the citizens of Franklin want. The idea is noble, but whether it's Peace Park or a military parade, there are so many factors that must be evaluated before and not after the fact. Sounds easy, a simple park with 4 statues, but the where, when, how, and who have not been thoroughly addressed. The last council meeting, when this was forced upon the council members by not being on the agenda and a packed audience, is not how my representatives operate. This is a complex issue, not the subject, but the implementation. Cost designs, responsibility, insurance, maintenance, and the upkeep, and the list goes on. I urge the council to go back to square one and deliberate the subject as you would any other park or subdivision, or how it will impact the citizens of Franklin Township. After due consideration and all the questions are laid, and you collectively decide the park will benefit or not benefit the township, that's when a decision should be made, and not the way it's been done. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Richard Seaman, 34 Rushigal. I'm going to say the same thing I said last month, and start off by saying that none of my comments have anything to do with the validity of this park, of its purpose. I have absolutely no opinion with regard to whether this park is a good, bad, or indifferent idea. I'm here to remind council, and forgive me for doing it, but I was so disappointed when I heard that a vote was taken on a non-agenda item after I spoke at the last meeting, which is really the main reason I'm back. You know, as Mr. Mayor mentioned, I'm on the Board of Education. I'm one of 3 members here. I don't know why the other 2 are here, but I'm not here as a Board of Ed member. I'm here as a citizen. I'm here as a licensed professional civil engineer to remind you that you are the keepers of the public trust. I understand that as a Board of Ed member. It's been drilled into me through Board of Ed training over the 10 years I've served this township. I also understand it as a licensed professional civil engineer. I am responsible for the public trust in the things that I do and the decisions I make as an engineer. I understand that. And I hope, and I'm here to remind you, that you are responsible as well. Any kind of project, whatever, any kind of infrastructure project starts with an idea, but it must progress in a logical way. You must bring on professionals who handle the various aspects as it moves along. That includes architects, engineers, attorneys, grant writers, whoever is needed at the various parts of the process. As I understand it, based on what I read on the internet, where we are today is we've got a drawing made by a person who I don't know if they're a professional engineer or architect. We have statues fabricated in another country. I have no idea what material they're made out of or what they're coated with. I don't know if there's lead in the coating. Is there lead in the base metal? Is there some other material that eventually is going to leach out into the property that they're set on? I don't know that the sketch that was posted on the internet last month, does it meet ADA compliance? Does anybody have any idea what the slip resistance of the stones are? No, you don't, because you didn't hire an engineer. You didn't hire an architect. You didn't go through the process of taking an idea and bringing it to the point where you're cutting a ribbon. And that is why I'm here to remind you that you are the keepers of the public trust. When you allow someone to do something and then shake their hand, say, oh, thank you, the township will take over that now, and the first person that steps on it slips and falls and breaks their ankle because the thing wasn't designed properly, the thing doesn't meet code, or if it does meet code, who knows what code it meets? Part of it wasn't even constructed here. You have failed. You failed the citizens of this township. You are the keepers of the public trust. I don't know how many times I can say that and drill it into you to remind you, you are responsible. It is unacceptable for anyone to take the excuse that, well, it's financed by private money. We have nothing to do with it. So you're going to accept something financed by private money and then allow the citizens to use it, not knowing whether it's actually properly constructed, not knowing whether it meets local building codes, state building codes? Does the electric work meet national electric codes? You have no idea because you've lost the process. You've completely lost the process. And the process in issues such as this are more important than the ultimate product. Because the ultimate product might be beautiful, but if it falls apart, if it's horribly maintained, if it requires staggering utility costs, the lack of the process has left you with what somebody mentioned as a white elephant. You are the keepers of the public trust. I would hope, and I wasn't going to say this as an elected official as well, but I would hope that there would be consideration tonight of rescinding the vote from last month. Consider to rescind the vote from last month, create a subcommittee, and let this item lay until such time as there's some real importance to move it forward. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Could see familiar faces. As my predecessor just said, Alex Mansuri, 208 Coventry Lane, Somerset, New Jersey. As my predecessor just said, I worked in this township, sitting behind those chairs for years, endless light, spending endless light here with some of you, Ted, Chase, Vasanella, and you, Kimberly. It's good to see you all here, and Von Locker, good to see you all here. I've not been in this well for 11 years now, since I left this township, due to a lot of other things. But I'm here today as a citizen, concerned citizen. I've been following the ongoing of this council, what has been going on, starting with the building of a temple in South Middlebush Road. I watch as it falls, and to my dismay, I was told that Councilman Prasad used the word, went to the township chief of police, then Larry Roberts, a friend of mine, and asked him to call in FBI on citizens of this township. That is what we call bullying. Before you and myself came to this township, I've lived here for 30 years. There were people building this township. Because of that, we are proud to live in this township. We shouldn't be calling authorities on them. Now, regarding this statue, it was once brought here to us, if some of you could remember, to erect a statue in honor of one of those three leaders. But it was only one. Funding was not discussed. And in the process, we lost that. Then, now, they're talking about building 3 statues here, erecting 3 statues here. What had happened, I think it's totally a shame. How can we go and secure funding before having approvals? Single person. I have been going around. I know a lot of Indian businessmen in this township. I have been talking. I know your modus operandi, Mr. Prasad. Trust me. And I know how you operate. I want to ask this township, I want to ask the mayor. I am asking you, please, to investigate the funding of the statue. I know what I'm talking about. Not only where the money is coming from, but what is the sum total? Not the one that is presented to you. There are more to that. Failure to do so, I think we should call the Somerset Prosecutor's Office, which I think should be the best thing than calling FBI. Above all, my last thought is nobody should use color or race. We are one in this township. I don't know color. I don't know race. I'm black, and I'm proud. My ancestors are in South Carolina. They built here, the Gola people. You can ask Ben Jallo sitting back there. I'm from Sierra Leone originally. And the Gola people resided in South Carolina. So my roots are here. I don't believe in racism. I believe in what you can do for yourself. Let's cool this color racist talk down. Let's build Franklin together. This township has given some of us a lot of opportunity, which we stand on. And America has given us opportunity, which we stand on. Let's don't abuse that. Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you. I take my seat. Thank you very much.
Brian Ulrich, 209 Wilson Road. Mr. Mayor, Council, I appreciate everything you do. I'm the guy that they did it to the last time, or he did it to the last time. Call the FBI, wanted to call the FBI on. I'm going to tell you, zebras don't change their stripes. And my dad always used to tell me, you know, you can't fly with eagles if you can't fly with eagles if you sit with turkeys. Just the way it is. One bad apple spoils the bunch. You know, the last time he did this to me, my wife didn't want to come here tonight because, you know, she's a public school teacher. And, you know, his actions have real-world consequences. My wife, being a public school teacher, just the other day, you know, school's back in session, and one of her students wanted to get a picture of her and searches her online, just types in her name. And what comes back is all the articles of what he said about her. Still, 3 years later, public school teacher, so she didn't want to be here tonight because she didn't want to have her name in the paper again about something like this because it's all coming up again. You got to do something about this. Leopards don't change their spots. Zebras don't change their stripes. He's a repeat offender. It's a constant problem. You got to do something about this time. Okay? Thank you.
Ardaman Singh, 30 Cartier Drive, Franklin Park. I am just here to talk to the council and tell them that we just attended the 9/11 memorial service. That is where peace and nonviolence is. We have a gazebo that is about to be complete, and we have the ribbon cutting on Sunday. That is peace and nonviolence. Come to Franklin Day, you see that every year. That is where you see peace and nonviolence. We don't need 500 different peace and violence statues and parks and anything. I landed at Newark Airport 20 years ago and made Franklin my home. I drove from Newark Airport and came to Franklin, and it's been my home since. And I love my town, I love the diversity, and we have always and always worked together. I do not know why, Mr. Prasad, you bring these conflicting things and make me feel ashamed that I'm a Democrat and you're not a team player. It is shameful, and I'm really sorry that I sit on the party with you, I attend meetings with you, and I can look at you in the eye and you know that how shameful it is when we hear all these things in public and what you are doing to our beautiful town. Thank you.
Johnny is still 25 Parkside. The lady come up, you needn't be ashamed of Rajiv Prasad. You need to be ashamed of yourselves. I understand that somebody said that Rajiv called somebody else and somebody said that the Republicans don't want no colored statues. Trump don't either. Since when did you change? I think there's a whole long history of the Republican Party disliking blacks and people of color. You know what I'm saying? Well, Trump don't. I mean,
he has the floor.
I have the floor. That's right. And I'm going to speak my piece. Several months ago, the same group came out to Catawba Park. Every time there is a situation or something got to do with people of color, they heard it come. I remember the last time they came, when Middlebush Park came. Here they come again. Once they found out some kids of color was coming, here they came, the same ones coming again. Now you put it behind the Republican Party. There's a lot of good people in the Republican Party. I know them. But let's not say what's not true. Now the man has passion. Can you understand passion behind action? That's what I have. I have passion.
Mr. Tibbs, you will address the council, not the audience.
Hey. Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Okay. There's several things I want to talk about. People talking about actions. I want you to understand when a person as Rajiv Prasad, that is the best man on his council right now. That is the best man on his council. Hey, who built the 9/11 memorial?
Mr. Tibbs, address the council.
Yes. Who built the memorial? Who pays for every Democratic Party, everything we've had? Who pays for that? Who put up the statues? Hey, you got Gandhi, crazy. Mama Teresa, Nelson Mandela, and Martin Luther King. That's what I am. I'm telling you the truth. Now, I can understand that certain procedures that might have been adhered to in terms of getting to the point where we're at now. But I'll tell you each one of you guys, I don't like you beating on Mr. Prasad. He's the best man on the council. He did more for the town here.
Mr. Tibbs,
yes, I'm
address
talking
the
into it now,
council.
Phil. Okay. I want you to understand that. He had no reason to apologize for what to who. He didn't have no business apologizing. The last time the FBI, they were about to take out some of his people at the temple. That's why he should have. They get me to commit harm to his people. He protecting his people, charge him for protecting his people. I'd have called the FBI and some Panthers and everybody else to help me out. That's the same thing he's doing now. He got a statue come up. The Franklin Township should be proud of a person like Rajiv Prasad. Like the statue, hey, you got something against Martin Luther King? Huh? You got something against Martin
Mr. Tibbs.
Okay. Now I'm telling you guys now. Now I know you love this. I know that. I know you just love this. What's been going on? You love to be. The one guy, he used the F word. You know? You know, the guy, he used the F word. This is bigotry BS. What you just heard, a whole bunch of bigotry BS. I adhere to the fact, Kimberly, you guys have a job to do. Go ahead and go through the procedures, but make sure the statute, Franklin Township will be proud of a person like Rajiv Prasad, and be proud of the statute that's going to be built. And everything will cost to the township. And for the rest of them, I'm Johnny Tibbs.
Sam Willow, 14 Girard Avenue. I'm not sure how I can follow him, but I'll try. This is not about politics. This is not about Democrats and Republicans. This is not about color. This is not about white and black. This is all about due process. If not for the Franklin reporter, this wouldn't have come out. All the people here, somebody spoke about the leaders behind. We are not talking about their characters. We are not talking about the people. The 4 statues which are going to be built, I'm sure they're rolling in their graves today because there was no transparency in this process. And the due process should be that it should be voted in the council and no statue should be ordered from a third world country or whichever country it was ordered from. Follow the money. I would say follow the money. There are a lot of businessmen in this community. Where did Piyush Patel come from? I heard some name being brought out. This is not about Democrat. This is not about Republicans. We were known as Franklin Township, the 5th best town in the country. We want to keep it that way. We don't want to be going 125th or 150th. What we are doing right now, dividing in the name of soccer, cricket, in the name of white and black, we shouldn't be doing it. There is a due process, and I'm really disappointed in the leadership of the council today. They should be standing up and saying this cannot happen in our town. We are Franklin Township. We are not Democrats. We are not Republicans. We are just pure and simple people with a diverse community in this town. Why do we have to have statues? Somebody brought up 9/11. That should be the uniting factor. Build a YMCA for all the youth in this town. Let's give them money to build a YMCA. Bring all the kids into town. That would be a much more bringing people together, not statues. We can celebrate Mahatma Gandhi Day. We can celebrate Martin Luther King Day. We can celebrate Nelson Mandela Day. I don't think anybody in this town will oppose to those things. The money we are appropriating towards that statue should go towards a YMCA or a youth center where all the people play from the other side of. I know people in this town on the other side. I live on the other side. I live in the Hamilton side. I know what diverse community is. I was a part of Hamilton business. I had a business in that side of the town. They're trying to divide people here. I work on the Franklin soccer board. I don't see color. And I'm really ashamed to say that I'm an Indian today because of what Rajiv Prasad has done. Wherever I go, people come and ask me, oh, it's your guy who did it. How do I defend that? Because the leadership here did not allow me and gave me the decency to what I need to be defended. We are a diverse community. We are a one community. Not a Democrat issue. It's not a Republican issue. It's not a black issue. It's not a white issue. Want to spend that kind of money on a statue? Build a YMCA. Build an open community that side of the town. James Vassanella is from that side of the town. He represents that town. Let's put together, let's all come together and build something for this town where they don't have places to go to after 4 o'clock. I know a lot of people better than me about due process. All about due process. We are not worried about whether the characters of the 4 leaders, about the statue being built, or the leaders assassination and they are supporting you. all are supporting. Not about that support, it's about bringing the together in this time age. Not about, we are always dividing issues, soccer, cricket. All about, it's only one councilman who brings. I belong to the Indian community. I know how passionate cricket is. But like somebody said, last time there were a lot of people from Edison, not from Franklin Township. A lot of people who play, not from Franklin Township. We have rules when we go apply for soccer fields. 75% of that community should be catering to Franklin Township. That's what the Board of Education audit the Franklin soccer and see. We cater to 85% of the Franklin Township community. From the other side of the town,
Time.
this side of the town, there is differentiation.
That's time.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Kelly. I did that. You need to yell to the cable company.
It was planned.
That's what I meant by I did it.
All right, who has the switch back there to turn this off? Chris Kelly, Hilltop Lane, Somerset, New Jersey. I came up here with all intentions of good things, but then after listening to everybody else, I'm not going to beat a dead horse for a minute. I wanted to thank Mayor Kramer for proclaiming September Blood Cancer Awareness Month. As he knows, it is, and some people here may know, it is close to my heart and the rest of me. So thank you, Mayor Kramer. I did hear, on a good note, a bright spot of the evening, I did hear that the 1988-89 Franklin High School winter and spring track is going to be inducted into the Franklin High School Athletic Hall of Fame on our 30th anniversary of a state championship. Go Warriors. Okay, so now to address the issues here. I have empathy for you, Mayor Kramer, because the last time this happened, I was sitting in your chair, and I do not envy that at all. So kudos to you for sitting there politely and very stoically as all this goes on around you. As a Republican here in town, and as a resident here in town, I'm saddened that we're here again with all of this going on, and I'm disappointed that all of this is happening. And I just want to make an offer that when I read the article in the paper that there were locally emboldened Republicans who are racist, I have been a registered Republican since I was 18, so as of next week it will be 30 years. I've been going to county meetings, I've been going to town committee meetings. I'm on the county committee, I'm on the town committee, and I'm on the Town Republican Club, an officer of all. So if you can provide me a name or names as to who these locally emboldened Republican racists are, I guarantee you within 10 minutes they will be out of the county committee, off the town committee, and out of the club. So if you can provide those, I will believe that you're not a liar. If you can't provide those, I'm leaning towards you're a liar and you should resign. Okay, enough said. Then I heard another thing. I'm not pro or con memorial statues. Honestly, I really don't care. That idea, I think the idea is great. I believe the process that has transpired is shocking at best that it's happened again. And I'm going back to probably the second week after I was sworn in. Somebody sent me an email on my town mayor's email. I thought it was a good idea, so I forwarded it to everybody on council at the time. I just did a forward to all. And probably the next day, one person on council chastised me almost immediately that I should know the etiquette for using my email. I should not send a reply to all. I should just leave it as is because that constitutes a whatever. It's against the Sunshine Law to send a note to everybody. I just want to know if once these emails that the councilman has sent out to several members of the board, has that same response taken place behind closed doors? I know nobody's going to answer, but has he been told that this should not happen since I told him this should not happen? And that is one. Then I heard something a little bit shocking earlier today. Someone whispered in my ear that there's rumor of 4 more statues being ordered, and it could be, in addition to this, that there could be 8 statues coming. Kind of intrigued with that development on this. And then I wanted to also make an offer that I have some money burning a hole in my pocket. Can I donate a statue? Can I pick my own statue? Put it over on the consular property? I would love to get one of Johnny Tibbs, but sadly, that would be a disgrace to the town. Is it possible that I could donate a statue? You can take your time. Y'all know how to get in touch with me. Thank you very much for your time.
Skip Schaefer, 2 Laura Terrace, Somerset. I want to remind council, and you've got this on tape from a prior meeting, Mr. Tibbs standing up here and saying to you that he is a stone-cold racist. So I want you to assign value to his words this evening by his own admission.
Mr. Tibbs, he has the floor.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Those were words spoken by Martin Luther King. Why are we here for the second time in 3 years with a problem caused by Mr. Prasad? Because he chose, once again, to operate in darkness, to not follow procedures, to not be transparent, to not be open. He likes to work in darkness. For the second time in 3 years, we're hearing hate speech from him. 3 years ago, it was calling people racists and bigots and Nazis and skinheads. And now he's calling all Republicans emboldened that they don't want colored statues in town. Why are you allowing this person to remain on council? Fortuitous timing, Kimberly, that the bank was here today with a check for you. How much more productive could the funds that have been raised for these statues and the monument and the place where they're going to be put, how much more productive could that $80,000, that $100,000 be if it was given to the FYI, if it was given to for a YMCA, rather than statues? She just collected all the money she's going to collect for 1 year, she said. 10 grand. And yet we're going to spend 10 times that on ridiculous statues. It doesn't matter that they're donated privately. I hope the gentleman ends up with some very expensive tchotchkes. Mr. Prasad's choice of words emboldened Republicans. Funny, why are we here for the second time in 3 years? It's because Mr. Prasad was emboldened to go through the same crap again. Hiding under the darkness, working in the darkness, calling people names. And why? He was emboldened. Because 3 years ago, not one of you on council publicly said anything to admonish him for his behavior regarding the Catawba Park incident. Not one of you did. So if he doesn't feel threatened, if he doesn't feel warned or anything, why would he be emboldened to continue his behavior? I've always been my experience that when people bring up race, when race isn't a factor in something, I think they're a racist. Mr. Prasad, I believe you are a racist. You just continue to lie and lie and lie, and even when you're caught by your own freaking emails, you continue to lie more. You're not sorry you wrote that email. You're sorry you got caught. It must be killing you tonight that 3 times a speaker up here has referred to your project as a white elephant. It must be killing you. Mr. Fassino, I don't know why you have so willfully become Mr. Prasad's stooge in this project. I really don't. I really don't. I mean, if Mr. Prasad is the Donald Trump of this council, you sure are Ivanka Trump.
Mr. Tibbs.
And I'd like so much to let you know, what Samantha Bee said about Ivanka Trump, that rings real true. I cannot believe, I don't know how much in debt can you be to this man that you would act as his stooge, especially during last month's council meeting. I know, I'm out of time. Darkness can't drive out darkness. Only light can. Hate can't drive out hate. Only love can. Mr. Prasad does neither.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one come forward, I make a motion that we close public session.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion. All in favor of closing public session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public session is closed. It is time for council comments and committee reports. Mr. Gelater.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there was a lot said tonight. I'm not going to comment on it. I would ask that you...
Actually, I apologize. There has been a repeated question. I'm going to turn it to the township attorney. People have asked about what is the procedure of council removing a council member. I know the answer, but it's best coming from you.
The answer is there isn't one. So the council doesn't have any authority to remove a member other than in a circumstance where a member of the governing body is absent for more than from a council meeting, then council can declare the seat vacant. The only process for removing a sitting council person is the recall process that involves a petition with a certain number of signatures, a ballot question, and then the people could, essentially the voters can only vote.
Thank you, sir. Excuse me, Mr. Gelater.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All I was going to say is that there's been a lot said tonight, and I would respect that you let me let everything that was said sink in, that rather than say a statement tonight. But along that lines, then, so my only reports then for the rest of the night is that again, we talk about maintenance and infrastructure around the request of that being done in town. So given that I am on Sewage Authority, I'd like to report that Rodney Avenue project is, we're considering significantly complete. That is a project that was done to improve the infrastructure of the town and remove 3 exposed laterals that were above ground. So we have stopped any sorry, improved any infrastructure that's done. So I sincerely thank the residents of that area for tolerating the extended length of the project, and I hope that you understand that this was done with a greater plan. There are 2 projects that are underway right now, so 2 additional projects underway to again complete the infrastructure projects throughout and make sure that the system's working properly. As far as other committees, tonight would have been admin. We're sitting here. Public Works is at the end of the month. However, there are some road paving projects which will be starting within the next couple days if they haven't already started, and the county will be paving Cedar Grove Lane. I believe it's scheduled for the week of the 25th or 24th in the evening, so please be prepared for that, but this is to make sure that the road is actually improved. Beyond that, Mr. Mayor, I don't have anything else to say at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Onijaka. Councilman.
Yeah, Mayor. Unfortunately, I just came in, and I know that we've had a heated argument on these important issues. So I know I missed some of them. But most especially the one I missed so much is the memorial service today for the 9/11, which I tried to meet up, but I could not. Whatever may be the case, I pray that our true Lord will receive the souls of the departed, and they will continue to be with our Lord, finally, until we all meet again. I don't have much to say today, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
The only thing I need to say is it breaks my heart that this project has caused so much controversy. And I think there were a couple of things that were said tonight about us keeping the public trust, and that's something that, we work very hard to maintain. And so everything that was said is certainly taken under advisement. And I think that it also pains me to think that people, it's like if you go out and break the law, all of a sudden I could be held accountable for that. So, I think people should at least have a little bit more endearment about the fact that each one of us up here are individuals, and we have ownership and accountability for what we do as individuals. So I don't think it's always so fair to say that if something is done by one, that we should all be penalized by that. But I heard it very loud and clear that we need to keep the public trust, and that's something that we haven't done a good job with this project. And I think that, if there's some, there's a perception out there that we haven't done things the right way, we need to go back and do our due diligence and correct that. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Francois. Councilman Vasanella.
Comment about Republicans is inexcusable. I know a lot of Republicans in this town, and I've never ever heard one of them say anything about not wanting colored statues. I've never seen any of them not work side by side in so many projects related to diversity. And I can't condone, and those comments are inexcusable. I'm finding out about this stuff, some of it in real time, as some of you are. I was asked to be part of the ad hoc committee and bring what was a unanimous statement based on the information presented at the time, and made a point of not making a motion, but delivering a message. As information develops, obviously we look at it and take extreme caution and review of what's going on. So I look forward to looking at everything and moving forward in a way that Councilwoman Francois suggested, that we take into account all the details and make sure that we do things in a way that all of our actions can be trusted and responsible to all residents in this town. It's not a town of political parties, it's a town of human beings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vasanella. Mr. Wright.
I didn't know it was coming up so soon. Councilman Ted Chase will basically do the majority of the Land Use Committee, but I'm going to speak on something near and dear to my heart, and that's Middle Bush Park. What we have going, the Middle Bush turf field and skate park fence replacement is in construction as we speak. The playground rubber play surface is complete. So for everyone that has little children and you want to go out and do the swings and all that kind of good stuff, we got the rubber for you. The permeable pavers, phase 3, the bid was awarded, and mid-September we have a construction going on. These Sand-Pro base ball field grooming attachments have been completed. The Middle Bush non-athletic turf field received quotes, and we're looking for a September, October work start?
You have the contract on your agenda tonight, Councilman.
Okay. See how great he works. We have a status of the land adjacent to the Little League parking area, and that has a closing of mid-September. So can
I believe that it will close on the 21st of September as of the email I saw this afternoon.
Okay. So I have another question. Could you explain that?
Sure, there was a vacant, there was a house that had suffered a fire several years ago adjacent to property owned by the township next to the parking lot for the Little League fields on DeKalb Street. We approached the owner and negotiated with the owner to purchase the property. Council had adopted ordinances several months ago to do that. It sometimes is a long and arduous process for us to obtain property. This negotiation called for the owner to demolish the house before we acquired the property. It's been done, and it looks like closure is imminent, and that will allow for the Little League to expand the parking facilities, which is oftentimes a problem in that area of town when they have many games playing at once.
Thank you. And also, Councilman Bessanella, he's also under land use, and something that he loves is the baseball field. Do you want to explain that little baseball field deal as far as, or let's, Castleton? Castleton Park, I'm sorry. Want to go to council?
Well, they're near completion, I believe, Manager, with the complete rework of the playground.
At Castleton?
Yes.
It should be complete at this point. There was several parks that are calling for upgrade to all of the tot lot and playground equipment to bring it up to current code. So Castleton was on the list, and it should be done at this point.
And Consovoy also.
And Consovoy was the other, correct.
Another one of our small but very important pocket parks over by Pine Grove Avenue. And the other item, I don't know if I cut you off there, but the park benches on DeMont Lane along the stretch, I'm going to say, between New Brunswick Road and Delwood, where some residents had suggested last year that it'd be nice to have some benches to be able to sit on when they're walking or strolling along that area there in front of the woods. And for what I think was a very small amount of money, we were able to accommodate them, and I believe they're being constructed from the last time I drove down.
Actually, I got an email from Mr. Bowman from the Franklin Reporter, I think yesterday. Mr. Bowman, you sent me an email asking me what that work was. I think there's 4 pads that are currently in the process of being poured to connect the benches for people to sit and enjoy the nice days out on the walking.
Yeah, I think it's 4 or 5, and for what it's worth, those are the type of suggestions that come from the residents, in this case, constituents of the 5th Ward, and you referred to the Little League. I know that was a long time in the waiting, and hopefully soon, going through the process as we do, we'll be able to help them get a more suitable and safer parking facility. Thank you, Councilman.
Just a couple meetings coming up for me. We have the Redevelopment Agency meeting coming up on Monday, which Councilwoman Kimberly Francois and I both sit in. I believe she's the vice chairman this year. And that's basically it. Councilman Chase will update you on the rest of the land use meeting.
Councilman Chase.
Yes, we had the Land Use Committee meeting on August 22nd. Two of the major items which are on the agenda for introduction as ordinances tonight. The Affordable Housing Ordinance, which codifies our agreement with the Fair Share Housing Center and the court supervising affordable housing plans. And this approves the provisions for affordable housing that we already have, most of which have already been built, the initial part of which was approved through a very open process by the planning board back in 2009, and we've continued along the same lines, particularly the construction of mostly affordable housing by RPM construction. Many towns, this ordinance also requires annual posting on our website of the status of implementation of the plan with a copy to the Fair Share Housing Center. Many towns are now worrying about huge requirements for affordable housing, which the courts, specific judges in specific jurisdictions are requiring them to do, because all through these years, since 2001, they seem to have felt that affordable housing would go away eventually, and it hasn't. We have been proactive and met our requirements. We are covered through 2025, and I hope that we will continue after that to meet our requirements without having the kind of large-scale development of green fields, which are what many other towns are worrying about. And I think that we're meeting the real needs for affordable housing in the township. Accompanying this is the development fee ordinance. This increases from 1.0% of assessed value of new market rate housing, other than affordable housing, to 1.5%. This goes to our Housing Trust Fund, which pays for renovation of existing low-income housing, for affordability assistance to help people make down payments on affordable units, and assistance to RPM to build low-income apartments. The fee on new non-residential development is 2.5%, including on additions to existing structures. We reviewed the status of a number of municipal projects, and I suggested that Councilman Wright and Councilman Vasanello report on their projects that are the apples of their eye. With other things, tree work for sidewalks on Girard and Belmar was to start shortly. Remember, this is an August 22nd meeting. Concrete work in the second week of September, so this is about now. It's expected to take about 3 months. Detailed plans for Catalpa Park have been submitted to DEP for permits. Approval is expected in December. Bidding in February or March, construction to start in the spring. Creating a linear park along JFK Boulevard is in survey with engineering. Replacement of bleachers at Naaman Williams Park is complete. 10 more Big Belly trash enclosures are expected this month, and 2 Bobcat lawnmowers have been received. And as Councilman Vasanella pointed out, we've done the groundwork now for the benches along DeMott Lane. That said, I think the public tonight deserves some response from council members. I think it's clear that the process by which the Peace and Nonviolence Park has been handled has deeply wounded public confidence in this township. I, for one, feel apologetic that I have not stood up harder against this process as Councilman Prasad, in his enthusiasm for it, has carried it along. I do say, as the Franklin reporter pointed out, that I asked for the word plan to be taken out of the resolution passed at the last meeting, because I felt that this was a plan which needed a great deal more study and vetting. I will say to Mr. Seaman, the plan actually was prepared by a licensed engineer, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to do, we would not need to do a great deal of vetting of it, of consideration of it. There are elements that were put before us on no notice, which I think are unjustified. And I have to say, thanks especially to the Franklin reporter for pointing out the recent court decision, which would almost certainly make our vote at the last meeting null and void. I would propose negating that motion of striking it, except that that is not on the agenda for tonight, so that I don't think it would be appropriate to make that motion tonight. But certainly in my mind, I think what we passed last time is, thanks to this court decision, null and void. And finally, I have to say, and it's very hard for any council member to criticize any other council member with whom they're working, have been working for years and years. And Councilman Prasad has been working on this proposal for years and years, and it has always seemed like a good idea. But as we look at it now, and we realize how an extraordinarily wide spectrum of concerned citizens of this township have criticized this proposal, or has criticized the way it has been done, I think it's clear, at the very least, that we need to back off completely on it. And I think Councilman Prasad has to consider, almost in effect, is it the proposal or is it him? Can this proposal be passed by this council after the way he has handled the proposal, and in particular the comments that he has been recorded as having made? I'll apologize to Mr. Ulrich personally that we did not criticize Mr. Prasad at that time. And I would say that I always thought that your opposition to Catalpa Park was entirely based on principle. I disagreed with it as a matter of practice. I felt it was something we should do, but I was always sure that your opposition was based on principle. So, personally, I think, Rajiv, you should consider resigning.
Are you done with your comments, Mr. Chase?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chase. Mr. Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have already apologized, but I want to clear the air, and for the record, the process was followed, Mr. Vella. Let me read, and now let it go into the record. So Resolution 07-302, dated June 12th, 2007. Resolution in support of a peace and nonviolence memorial at the intersection of Foxwood Drive and Eastern Avenue. Whereas the residents of Franklin Township hope for a world of peace and nonviolence for their families and friends and neighbors. Whereas the residents of Franklin Township aspire to peace and nonviolence for their children and their descendants. Whereas the residents of Franklin Township wish to inspire the same hopes and aspirations in future generations. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi were both leaders who practiced peace and nonviolence and who gave their lives in cause of peace and nonviolence. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi serve as models and reminders of importance of peace and nonviolence. Whereas the traffic island at the intersection of Foxwood Drive and Eastern Avenue is an appropriate site for a peace and nonviolence memorial. And whereas the traffic island at the intersection of Foxwood Drive and Eastern Avenue is owned by Somerset County, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Council of Franklin Township supports the establishment of a peace and nonviolence memorial, including statues of Dr. King and Mahatma Gandhi at that intersection. Be it further resolved that Franklin Township requests the Somerset County grant permission for the erection of a peace and nonviolence memorial on its traffic island at the corner of Foxwood and Eastern. Be it further resolved that the Franklin Township supports efforts to raise private funds to pay for the installation and continued maintenance of the Peace and Nonviolence Memorial. Certified by Anne Marie McCarthy, Township Clerk. That's number one. Number two, with this, there was a fundraising committee that was set up, co-chaired by Assemblyman Chavukula and Reverend Buster Suarez. They held a dinner, and a dinner was held in February of 2009, where $15,000 was raised from a diverse group of people, irrespective of party or religion or anything. They gave the money, the $15,000 that has been sitting in the township coffers since 2009. And they keep asking, where is the memorial that we donated for? And it's not, you know, this is in the record, available to everybody, and you can see the list. And the council is well aware of this list of people. Now, to drawings. An actual architect drew up the drawing because when we found out that we could not build it on Eastern Avenue, again, the idea was we needed reminders for as many people as possible about peace and nonviolence, so we tried to put it on Eastern Avenue, but when we couldn't, then we said we would put it on the municipal building here, municipal complex. And a drawing was drawn up for it, and a picture was also drawn of it. When it was shown last year to the township engineer, he said, I didn't know that such blueprints existed, but this was done by Nayak Consulting Group and an engineer. The architect was Kishore Joshi. So, to Mr. Seaman, drawings existed, they were there, and then when we had a meeting in September of land use, it was recommended that after we had acquired the property in May of 2017, that's where would be the best spot to put it. And it was a recommendation that we followed. It is part of the minutes, but we were kept confidential because we had a bond issue going before so that bond issue prevented us from reporting on it. But now that the bond issue is done, we can say that that's why it was not reported on. But the fact remains that due process was followed and that the bond issue was done, and after that, the whole process started, and the donor had originally attended the 2009 dinner, and he bought a painting of Mahatma Gandhi that was auctioned off. And he committed at that time, in 2009, I had never met the man before. And there he committed to donating these statues. Economy went south, everything was out of whack. When he was ready to, he came to us and said, I'm ready to donate. So that's when this whole process started up again. Now, you had a meeting on May 22nd, council meeting, where it was discussed, and it was decided at that time that there were two issues that the mayor had brought up rightly about the installation cost and estimated it to be $100,000. And since we had committed that it would never be any taxpayer funds, that money was raised from outside people to take care of the installation as well as take care of the maintenance, the intellectual property issues. So the intellectual property issues is where the whole exchange with the attorney for the King family took place. But we worked very hard to get it. There are only 4 places that have been allowed to have a statue of Dr. King, and we are the 4th one. There's one in DC, there's one in LA, in Riverside, California, and there's one in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And the family has been very judicious about who they give it to, and it is because of our MLK breakfast that they thought that our community was worthy of it and the diversity that we have. We have been living his dream. That is what we are all about. So now, to say that there's no process followed, process was followed. The committee reports were made, and as part of the committee report, a motion is made to move things along to the next step. It is not the final resolution, and that's not what was done. It was just that an ad hoc committee comes back and tells the council, we looked at the intellectual property laws and issues, and those have been resolved, and we've looked at the installation cost issues, and those have been resolved because enough money has been raised to do this. Those were the only 2 concerns for which an ad hoc committee was appointed. And that was the report. And then the point was that for this particular site, there was no engineering, and there would be no engineering till an engineer sat down with the township engineer and got the input from what the town was requiring for safety and code requirements, and that is what was done by the licensed professional engineer, Mr. Seaman, with the township engineer, got the input, and a site plan is to be developed. That site plan has not been presented here because it's not ready, and that is one of the reasons why we're not discussing it. Secondly, the legal issues were brought up, and the attorney was supposed to draft up certain things about it, and that agreement, he needs the council's input on it, so it's going to be discussed in executive session. That's where we are with this whole process. Nobody's trying to be underhanded or do things in darkness. And if you say so, I have read it out. Go and do your homework. Go and read the resolution that this council has passed. And it has never been rescinded, so the resolution stands, approved by council as of 2007. Okay? Yeah.
Mr. Prasad.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
The committees that I serve on.
Mr. Tibbs, how many times?
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Don't give me that look. How many times, Mr. Tibbs? Everyone else is remaining calm and quiet. You keep disrupting this meeting. Please, Mr. Tibbs. Mr. Tibbs! No, you cannot.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make these as part of the record for the council clerk to have on record and available to anybody who wants to see it.
Certainly. Please hand them or pass them to the clerk without getting too close.
And now to my committee reports. HRC met with the counselors from the high school to discuss how we can better help our kids. And it was also thought that maybe we should have the junior ROTC program come and take a better role in helping the kids and more active role, and having them have an option of going to the military, having the service under their belt, and then they can, have a better future because of that. So that is what was discussed in HRC. Admin has not had a meeting. Land use, my colleagues are reporting on. I'm on it. And as far as the Community Foundation is concerned, there is no meeting. It's one planned for later in October, I believe. So that's my report, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad. Deputy Mayor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no committee reports. Fire prevention, I did not attend because I had to work late. Housing Authority was canceled. I would just like to say this goes to everyone, not just Councilman Prasad. But you should make your words sweet because you just may have to eat them. My style is not to admonish anyone in public or make them feel bad. That's just not my style. So those of you who are looking for me to lash out at anyone, that's not my style. Am I above that? No, I'm human, but that's not my style. With everything that's happening in the world today, this should be about the process and how it was done or not done. And I'm looking to be a problem solver. And think of the acronym ART: accountability, responsibility, and transparency. That goes not only for myself, but everyone on this dais, everyone in this room. We should be working together to make sure that we're moving Franklin forward. If anything else comes up, I'm not a part of that. Don't want to be a part of that. I'm here to bring people together, to listen to ideas and ideals, whether I agree with them or not. I'm here to be a leader for people, whether they voted for me or not. I will continue to do my work and service, whether I'm on this dais or not. That's who I am as a person. And if you don't know me personally, if you have not gotten to know me and I have not gotten to know you, then that says something about what we're not doing as the Township of Franklin, as a people, as the residents of Franklin. Some people I only see when there are problems that arise. Others I see in passing. I have a nice word to say. We are always cordial, whether they're Republicans or Democrats. I get along with everyone, whether I agree with them or not. Some of people that I'm cordial with, that I have great working relationships, are Republicans. Some people have gotten up here on the podium and have painted us with a brush, the same way that the article was painting the emboldened Republicans with one brush. I take offense to that. I love the comment. I don't know if Mrs. Lawrence is still here, but she came with a solution. I applaud her for that. Miss Naomi, I didn't get your last name.
Nuremberg.
What was it?
Nierenberg.
Nierenberg.
Not Nuremberg.
I applaud you for allowing us to come with a solution starting from square one. Mr. Mansoray, thank you for your comments. I thank everyone in the room for the comments because I think it warrants us to take a look, whether we agree or disagree. But it warrants us as a council and leadership to take a look at everything that everyone has said and that has been brought forward. And I don't take that lightly. For me, it's not about the statues, it's about statutes. So this resolution that you read, this is my first time hearing about it. I'm just gonna put it out there. For the township attorney, this is from 2007. Is there an expiration, or what are the next steps that this is brought forward that is part of the record? What
Yes.
do we do now?
Yes, I just asked the attorney offline, what is the shelf life on a resolution?
So a resolution expressing the intent or of council in 2007 is just simply that, the intent of that council in 2007. Resolutions generally die at the end of the year.
Thank you. So as Miss Naomi Mirenberg, is that correct? Did I pronounce that correctly? Say start from square one. I think the concept is what was voted on. I was not here August 14th, but I believe it was just a concept, and correct me if I'm wrong. And as far as Mr. Seaman, your comments about civil engineering protection, that was one of the questions I did ask early on, was about ADA compliance. The other thing is we had not gotten that far as what materials, except for the statues themselves coming from another country. But even our cell phones, we don't even know what materials are in those, and they come from other countries. Just to put things in perspective. I'm not on one side or the other, but I just want to get to the facts and take the emotion out of it. And to Mr. Peterson's comment about one apple, and he wasn't the only one, so I don't want to call you out, but you started with the one apple spoils the bunch. I'm a peach, not an apple. So I march to a beat of my own drum. I'm an individual. I'm not beholden to any one person, any one party. I'm here to do the job. That's what I was trained to do in the military. That was my upbringing, to treat people with dignity and decency. And I will continue to do that. Regardless of what goes on or what the perceptions are, get to know me and let me get to know you. We're in this together. We're in this together because we're in the fight for Franklin Township. That's what this should be about. And so we're starting from I think we should start from square one as to what the process is, moving forward from where we are to where we need to be. And as far as I'm concerned, we are just at the concept level. And I've heard everything that has been said. I'm not in agreement with what was said by Mr. Prasad or what was perceived, taken in context, out of context. I am an IT person. Certain things that come on subjects, I don't even read it. I don't even engage. I choose not to for that reason, because I don't want to be a part of anything that is going to put my character and my integrity on the line. So I just ask, and I think Councilman Galtieri said it best. There's a lot that's been said. There's a lot that's been thrown even tonight and prior to, because I have had the opportunity to look at the meetings. And I wasn't here in July and August. But I think we do need to have time to soak in and take a look at everything that has been said. So, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have to say. But I thank everyone for being here and making those comments, the comments that you made. That's what it's all about. We don't have all the answers. Or let me speak for myself. I don't have all the answers. And when it's out of my wheelhouse, I go to the experts. As far as Mr. Prasad being asked to resign, that's not my lane, that's not my wheelhouse, and the attorney just confirmed it. Just because I didn't say it in public or I didn't admonish him before, I would go to the experts and find out what is the best way to approach it. So if you don't see me do anything in public, maybe just think sometimes I'm doing my research. I'm not going to do anything, I can't curse. I'm not going to do anything half behind backwards. I'm not going to make knee-jerk decisions. But what I will tell you is I will do my best to make sure I do my due diligence, do my homework, then come up with a decision or what's best for the township, not what's best for me, not what's best for any one or two individuals that's on this dais. It is about Franklin Township. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Peach. So I'll get to the subject in a minute. First, I want to acknowledge that yesterday was my mother's 98th birthday. She would kill me if she knew I announced that. I normally don't do this, but it is of so much importance. I received a text message from Linda Powell, and I'm going to read it. I forgot to announce that people should be alert for the NJDEP hearing or public comment meetings to be held on the water permits for Nessie. We are expecting this to be held possibly by mid-October. We are asking people to come out to help support our health and safety and ask the NJDEP to deny the permits. So that's about the compressor station, and that's of such importance to the town. I broke my usual protocol. She says it's mid-October, expected in mid-October. I'm sure she will update us. One direct point to what Mr. Prasad just said, if the site plan isn't ready, I am not sure how the ad hoc committee did a cost analysis. I did prepare comments for tonight, and contrary to what Mr. Tibbs said, I am not enjoying this. This is painful, and what I'm about to read will be very painful for me. Speaking about another council member in this way is a difficult, difficult thing. 2 years ago, I took a pledge to stand for the other. In short, that pledge states if I hear hateful comments about members of any community, I will speak up. I've taken other pledges in my life, to the flag, marriage, as an Air Force officer, and of course my oath for this office. I take them all seriously. I assumed when I took the stand for the other pledge, I'd be speaking up for Muslims, members of the LGBT community, or other embattled groups. I didn't think it would call upon me to defend citizens because of their First Amendment-protected political party affiliation. This past Monday, it came to light that Councilman Prasad wrote in his official capacity, the opponents of the Peace and Nonviolence Memorial are Republicans who object to statues because of the races of the honored subjects. I want to distance myself from these comments, for which there is no evidence and is needlessly divisive. Democrats have stated at the national level, words matter, facts matter. It is true, and we need to practice it at the local level. As most of you know, I entered government to control taxes and to promote open government. I believe in government. And Mr. Troutman, what you said, you were completely valid in what you said, but it hurt me because we have lost your trust, and that deeply hurts me. Specifically, when I got into government, I specifically got into a government of the people and for the people. I also believe unchecked government is dangerous, and it is only by its structure and the intentions of those elected that it can do the good things it's capable of doing. Mr. Prasad's statement was not only an example of bad government, but was in fact reprehensible. We are a diverse town, and in fact, we are a diverse town. In fact, we are tied with Newark for the most diverse in New Jersey, and Newark was named the 5th most diverse city in the country. So we are highly ranked. That's something we can all be proud of. But it's also hard. A diverse community takes constant guidance and attention. Franklin, in fact, does it well. We have a police force that has won an award from the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives for the diversity on our force. The Republican Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, cited Franklin as a model of community policing. Importantly, the new special officers that are going into each one of our schools this year reflect the diversity of our town. Our diversity makes us stronger. But as I said, it is hard. It requires leaders to be role models and the public to be vigilant and call fouls. So I want to thank the members of the public for doing their part. Many have asked for Mr. Prasad to resign, but what he ultimately does is in his hands. I therefore ask for one thing of you, Mr. Prasad. I ask that you give us a reason to forgive you. And what you just read tonight was not a good reason. Please, I am not looking for applause. I implore you to do that. I implore you to give us a reason to forgive you. For instance, the Martin Luther King organization you contacted now has an inaccurate view of Franklin, and that must be corrected. I'm sure the public would like to see a letter to them setting the record straight. To that end, Mr. Prasad has already assured me he will be present at the next open space meeting to discuss the memorial. And I believe that is a good time to begin this process from scratch. That would be a step towards openness. I will be there, and I have pledged to ensure that the discussion is respectful. On a related note, these events have brought to light a council practice that is problematic: the introduction of off-agenda yet significant decisions during council comments. In a step towards transparency, I am requesting council members to end this process, and I will flesh this out more in future council meetings after it is put on the agenda. I know this group stands for openness, and we need to increase our diligence in that regard. Thank you. That completes council comments. Guesses you have nothing to say. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple, so I'll go back to normal course of government business here. You're welcome. One, there was mention earlier about the sidewalk project.
Excuse me.
Mr. Manager, actually, one second. I sense a number of people are going to be exiting now. We're going to take a 30-second break. If people wish to leave, you can leave now. I don't think the issue of the day will be commented on any further. I will say there will be an executive session, and in that executive session, we are discussing, actually, I'll give you a chance to speak about it, Mr. Attorney. People may be interested in this.
Oh, Mr. Mayor?
Hang on one second, Mr. Wright. I fully expect to acknowledge you. The council discussion item will be on, Mr. Attorney.
Two matters: land transfer with the Board of Education and an anticipated land acquisition on Lewis Street, and the contract negotiations concerning the Township, the Community Foundation in regards to the Peace and Nonviolence Memorial. And with regards to, I'm not sure, Mr. Bornlark, I don't think there'll be any council action taken on any of those matters.
There should be no council action taken on any of those matters, correct?
After the executive session.
After we come out, correct.
So I wanted to make it very clear that that executive session is about a contract negotiation, not about discussion of the memorial itself. Okay. Mr. Wright, you had a point.
I just wanted to mention, it's a shame that everyone gets up after public discussion and council comments, walks out the door, and we're about to spend your money on a variety of issues, but yet you only came for one issue. Why not come back in the room and sit down and find out how we're spending your money? Everyone complains about taxes. Everyone gets up and says, well, why my taxes are high? But yet everyone just got up and walked out, and we're talking about how to spend your money. I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. So I just want to go on record. If you come to a council meeting, don't just stay to make your comment and run out the door. Come in, sit down, and listen to how we're going to spend your money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Mr. LaCourte, could you please close those doors so we don't have the noise from the lobby? Mr. Manager, excuse me for interrupting. Excuse me again, Mr. Manager. Mr. Chase.
I just want to, I'm glad Mr. Schmidt is still in the room. I want him to be here for the introduction of Ordinance 4243-18, which is a matter he calls a lot of attention.
A number near and dear to all our hearts.
Arnie, you're getting your way. We're changing it.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the first order of business is to talk about Franklin Day Festival as its organizer goes to close the door so she can hear me talk about it. You were not able to speak about it earlier today, and no one else mentioned it, and this will be the last opportunity for us to do it. So on Saturday, September 22nd, from noon to 5 p.m., the largest event that the township hosts every year, and which was started by Councilwoman Sherman, Franklin Day Festival will be held at Colonial Park. I encourage everyone to come out. It is a wonderful event where you'll have the opportunity to take part in a great deal of activities. There's entertainment, there's music, there's food. There's a car show courtesy of Mr. LaCourte, who's out in the lobby. And the putting course and paddle boats at the park are available to participants. It's the last day for our farmers market, which has been a huge success this year. There's children's activities, and there are, and I'm not exaggerating, well over 100 vendors. Nonprofit organizations are represented, people selling arts and crafts, an art show. It is a wonderful event that I encourage everyone to come out for. It is a year-long process. This is something that many volunteers and staff members pour their heart and soul into, so please come out. Last year I estimated that we were probably somewhere between 15,000 and 20,000 attendees, and I would anticipate, keep your fingers crossed, good weather, that we'll have a repeat performance, and so come out and enjoy the day and plan on spending the entire day. It's worth it. And that's right, and we have a Black Hawk helicopter coming in, and then it will stay and be on display. And it like I said, it grows and it gets more popular every year. But we always wonder how we'll top it, and I think this year we'll top last year. So I'm really looking forward to it myself, and I get to participate. So that is one thing, and then just one other matter that was raised earlier about capital projects. I think that was a good report from the council members about the updates on all of the different capital projects. Oftentimes people wonder what we're doing. We do these budgets and we talk about capital projects and then you never get to hear it. So that was a good report on an update of all the open space, recreation, park projects. And here's one that's not, sidewalks. The champion of sidewalks down at the opposite end, who is he there? There he is, Councilman Wright. There are 4 side streets that are currently being prepared for construction for sidewalks. Belmar, Girard, Hillcrest, and Dutton, all streets around the middle school that lack sidewalks, and this project is to provide a safe route for children to get to school, who walk to school. It's a very worthwhile project. I was involved in the identifying of those streets back in the early 2000s when I was the traffic sergeant, and it's wonderful for me to see it come to fruition. Monday the 17th, sir. I think that's this upcoming Monday. And the notices, I have the notice that was given to me today from the engineer that's going out to all of the residents in that affected neighborhood about please don't park on this side of the street and all of those things. So construction begins on the 17th, weather permitting. So there you have it.
Bob, I always said you were the big guy on this issue. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Sidewalks, I love them.
Yep. We'll be having them real soon. So that's the end of my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. There are no council discussion items. There are no minutes to approve. Approval of the warrants. Warrants in the amount of $31,767,688.75 on September 13th, 2018 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or question on the warrants? Hearing and seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes. Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
before you
Mr.
go
Wright.
there, I have a constituents, and they're killing me on Phillips Road. So, Mr. Township Manager, could you just bring me up on Phillips Road?
Sure. We're talking about the ravine behind the houses between
Yes, sir.
Phillips and Park. So those that capital project requires some significant permitting from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection because it involves a stream.
Right.
And so all of those permit applications are at DEP, and we anticipate being granted those permits over the course of the next couple months. Obviously, the work is going to entail, the type of work won't be able to be done over the winter, so we anticipate a spring start date for award of a contract on that capital project, because by then we'll have all of our permits in hand.
Okay, so you can expect me to come back to this council
bet
and
you
ask
will.
you about that, because I can live maybe during the winter, but come springtime, that's when I got to look out. Thank you.
Okay, let's get the meeting moving so that we have time for Councilman Wright to interrupt us again. Item number 12, public hearing and adoption of ordinance on second reading. By the way, we've covered one page of the agenda. We have only 7 left. Yes. Ordinance 4239-18, an ordinance to amend the municipal code book, Chapter 115, Dogs and Other Animals of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, with the amendment of Article 2, Dogs and Cats, Section 115-8, licensing required fees, term, non-transferable, Section A, dogs, reduced license fees for dogs from $15 to $14.80 is presented to, for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Is there a motion for public hearing?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Anyone, I'm sorry, all in favor of public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public hearing is open on this item only. Anyone wishing to speak?
Mayor, seeing that no one's coming forward, I make a motion that we close this portion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, hearing and seeing no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public session is closed. Do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So for discussion, this is, in a nutshell, lowering the fee from $15 to $14.80 because there is additional state tax on it. This makes it a total of $16, and that way our people don't have to make change. We lose $500 in the deal, but we save more than $500 in staff time, et cetera.
Sending people to the bank to get change.
Yes, thank you. Any other discussion on the item? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase? Yes. Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Ordinance number 4240-18, authorizing vacation and acceptance of the waterline easement in connection with the HSRE EB Somerset LLC and Engel Berman QC at Somerset LLC, Block 468.01, part of lots 26.01 and 26.03 is presented for the public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do we have a motion to open for public hearing?
So move.
No move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of opening for public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open for public discussion.
Seeing no one coming forward for public discussion, I motion to close the public portion of the hearing as an ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Having no discussion on that, all in favor of closing public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public discussion is closed. This is a water easement by the town, and when we do things like this, we have to get an ordinance. We have to pass an ordinance in order to do it. Any other discussion? Do I have a motion on the item?
So moved.
I'm sorry, we already did that. No, we didn't. Do I have a motion on the item?
Moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Madam Master Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Ordinance 424118, an ordinance to acquire by purchase or condemnation certain lands within the Township of Franklin, Somerset County for municipal purposes in the Township of Franklin pursuant to NJSA 42A 12-13A, Block 417.01, Lot 15.02. This is an item, 5.28 acres on Wilson Road is presented for public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do I have a motion to open for public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We're open for public discussion.
Mayor, seeing
Mr.
no
Mayor,
com-
could I make a
No.
comment, please?
No, you cannot. We're waiting for. do we have
I'm
to
the
close?
public at this point.
No, you are not.
Mayor,
We're-
seeing no,
I have a question.
I need to comment.
We are in public session. You can comment when we move the item. That's the appropriate time for you to speak.
Mayor,
Seeing no
seeing-
one coming
Nope, nope.
forward, I move the public discussion be closed.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing for public discussion, say aye.
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 Do we have a motion on the item
So moved.
and a second?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Manager, do you have a comment?
So I wished for this to be tabled, and I will explain why now. So
Yes.
rather than we go through that part of the process, that'll just make you vote one more time.
But we are required to go through
Understood.
that. Thank you.
So as some of you, well, those of you who were here at the last council meeting will recall that a gentleman went up to the microphone and made an impassioned plea to allow him to purchase back the property that he believed had mistakenly gone into foreclosure because his mortgage company did not pay the taxes. That gentleman has spoken to me on several occasions now about this. I've also spoken with the individual representing the LLC who foreclosed on the property, who is willing to allow that gentleman to redeem beyond the redemption period, as long as the township agreed to allow him to do that. As part of that discussion, the gentleman agreed to reimburse the township all expenses that were incurred by the township during the process that would be gone through to acquire the property, such as title and a survey and attorney fees. The gentleman gave me a certified bank check this afternoon to cover the cost to the township. What I would recommend is that council table this item at this point. In the event that this does not close as it's anticipated, and the deal doesn't go through between the former owner and the current owner, that would give us the opportunity to then acquire the property in the event that he doesn't do that.
Okay,
Motion to table.
Wait, excuse me, if you would hold, I haven't recognized you. If you make a motion to table and then it is seconded, there is no further discussion. Does anyone have any discussion before we have a motion to table? Okay.
I do have a question.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So, because we voted on C?
Yes, I'm going to handle that.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We'll have to go through the same process for D.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Vasanella.
Motion to table.
Second.
Moved and seconded. The only thing that can be discussed about after a motion to table is table it to when. I suggest we table it indefinitely.
That would be my motion to table indefinitely if that
my
lawyer is okay with that.
Any further discussion on how long to table it?
You don't have to do that with a table.
Pardon?
To do that with a table. A table is a table. You don't have to
No.
put a time frame on it.
Actually, just
Why I
because.
said what's okay with us.
Just because I'm a
Actually,
nerd.
she's correct. A motion to table is an inartful way to, it's actually a motion to postpone, and it's only a motion to postpone to a specific time in which you discuss the time to which you're going to postpone it. Otherwise, you just place it on the table until such time as it gets taken off.
I used to
Thank
be a
you very
mayor, don't forget.
Motion to
By the
table.
way, and I noticed that he did not recognize you as being the mayor
he
in the
never
room
does.
when he recognized all the
Everyone
mayor.
else.
For the record.
So, for the record, it's
Wow.
simply motion to table, Mayor.
I was just taken to the woodchuck. Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
I love learning new nerdy Robert's Rules stuff. Great, thank you. We have motion to table and a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Good job, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councilwoman.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a suggestion with regards to the next ordinance?
Yes, please.
So,
Ditto.
well, yes, except that I only have one suggestion, and that is that we actually hold a public hearing. And the reason why I suggest that is because if for some reason all that we have planned does not go through, it will save us the advertising cost of having to advertise it again if we hold a public hearing.
So we can just put this on the agenda at any time?
Well, the
if we
answer is,
do
is that, the answer is that it can, yes, it can be put back on the agenda at any time.
As a second?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
All right.
and my suggestion is that you, once again, hold the public hearing now only because we've advertised and paid for it, and it would save the township approximately $38.
That's right.
Excellent.
Each.
So,
Each.
ordinance number 424218, capital, so this is, no, let me do it right. Capital ordinance providing for the payment of the purchase price of real property in and by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, the Township, appropriating $88,000 therefore to pay the cost thereof, Wilson Road property, block 417.01, lot 15.02, is presented for the public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do we have a motion to open for public hearing?
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion on it. All in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now open to the public on this item only.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one come forward, I'd make a motion to close public session.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion. All in favor of closing public discussion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Public session is closed, and since I'm acknowledging people, I always acknowledge people who's have roads or who are named after roads. So welcome, Mr. Sedan, to our council chambers. So we have, do we have a motion on the item?
Motion that
We table. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on tabling? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Councilwoman, did I do okay that time?
Yes, you did.
You asked for discussion on the motion.
Oh, it's still, okay. We'll go over this later.
We'll get it eventually.
Probably not. Your mic isn't on, no one can hear you chastising me.
I know, I think that.
Ordinance, okay, so that's it for second readings. We're now to ordinances on first reading. So I got my notes ready. And Mr. Schmidt left. Ordinance 4243-18, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset in the State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 167, Noise, Section 167-7, Enforcement, Violations, and Penalties. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, October 9th, 2018, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Do I have a motion on the item?
Motion to introduce.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. So for discussion on this, basically, our Norris ordinance has a penalty of $3,000. The state gives us the ability for a maximum penalty on our ordinances of $2,000, so we are realigning this with state law. Any other discussion or correction if that was wrong?
Did our township manager leave?
Oh, I'm right here.
I have a question on this. Is this cumulative, or is just every shot, every time something comes up? And they have,
Well, though, so this is the maximum penalty for one offense, and it is at the judge's discretion as to what the fine is. So, but the maximum allowed under the ordinance can be $2,000. I would imagine that because we are not the only municipality that had this ordinance, it's a model ordinance from the state, and at one time there must have been something that caused the state to write a model ordinance with a $3,000 maximum penalty, but that has since gone away. The law now is clear as to what the maximum for a municipal court violation can be, and it's $2,000.
But your question is it's the maximum penalty per violation.
Per violation.
Per violation.
Right.
Per
Yep.
violation.
so there's no way to stack on top?
There is, it's per
Well, there is,
violation.
and that's that when you
per
have
violation.
violations that recur over and over and over again, you issue a new violation for every day that it occurs.
Okay, okay.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Thank you. Ordinance 4244-18, amend municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 201, Sewer and Sewage Disposal, addition of new Article 7, sump pumps and pipe drains, discharge control. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with the law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, October 9th, 2018 at 7 p.m. at the municipal complex. Do I have a motion?
Mayor?
No. Do I have, no, there's no discussion. Do I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. So let me explain. This is a sump pump ordinance. It's about sump pumps not discharging into the street. Especially when that happens in the winter, you can get ice puddles there. And now, I know, Mr. Vasanella, you are eager to comment on this, so.
Yeah, Mayor, I know because I've discussed this with you and others, I'd like to table this because there is some aspects of it that I think may put a new burden on long-time homeowners in Franklin that because of various reasons now may be in violation or because of the ordinance may have to make adjustments, which I think we need to reconsider how and if the town would assist them in those adjustments, because it's not just about frozen and ice, it's also standing water and many other aspects. So I'd like this to go back to the Public Works for further review and just table it for now.
So is that a motion to table?
It's a motion to table.
Or will you allow other discussion before that?
Well, if anybody else has any discussion, sure, but
So I'll come back to you on the actual motion. Any other discussion?
So your question, your reason for wanting to table is to allow residents to make adjustments or changes for whatever drainage they
No.
need for this, what are
No, it's
clarification?
so, because when we first discussed this several months ago, and more recently with other council members, I was under the impression, as I believe they were, or at least some of them were, that the town would be more involved in finding remedies if indeed it deemed that people with the sub-pump issues would need to find remedies based on the new requirements of this of this ordinance if we indeed pass it. So I'd like it to go back to Public Works for a much more involved discussion. It's not what at least I thought it would be when we discussed it several months ago.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Manager.
So my concern with tabling this and going back to discussing it again is that it's now September. And further discussion and further delay will put us in the same position that we've been in every winter since this has been a problem, which has been every winter since sump pumps pumped water into the street. This constitutes a safety hazard in certain circumstances that needs to be addressed. Without the proper tools to address it, we can't, and it constitutes a hazard. And that's why this ordinance was discussed in Public Works, and that's why this ordinance was drafted in such a way that it was. If the discharge into the street does not constitute a hazard, there's no reason for any existing homeowner who discharges into the street to do anything. If it constitutes a hazard, it certainly does put a burden on the homeowner, but this is a situation where it is the homeowner whose actions are constituting the hazard. And I don't know of any other way other than significant drainage work by the township, which the township doesn't have the wherewithal to do, other than what this ordinance does is allows homeowners to connect to our storm sewer system where our storm sewer system exists, which was what was discussed in the Public Works Committee.
So if we're talking about the immediate need for
I'm sorry, you spoke, Mr. Chase had something to say, and we'll come back to you, Mr. Vasanella.
Sure.
I just wanted to point out that the ordinance says specifically in section 201-44, an existing sump pump or pipe drain discharge may continue at the location where the discharge was made on October 1, 2018, so long as such discharge does not, 1, create a public nuisance, which is anything, condition or act which is or may become injurious or hazardous to the public, such as having half the street flooded and iced over. 2, which is really what I just said, create a buildup of icing, standing water, algae growth, or cause erosion on the street. It's only if creating a public nuisance or creating a buildup of icing that the township shall require the owner to make the correction. And furthermore, Public Works will work with this was stated in committee discussion, Public Works will work with the owner to have the least expensive way to achieve the purpose of the ordinance, whether it be to discharge on another part of their property where the water will sink into the ground, whether in fact it will go directly into a township storm drain or whatever. But, we have to have a way to deal with these problems, and we had at least 2 of them last winter on Magnolia and on Buffer Drive. Margaret, yeah.
Off Buffer.
So wait, before Mr. Vasanella speaks, anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Ms. Robinson, you haven't spoken on this item yet? You have, oh, okay, I missed that. Okay, Mr. Vasanella.
So, no, I appreciate your comments, Dr. Chase. So I agree with you, and actually that was the part that I said we would need to get proactive with. So my only concerns are twofold here. If it's where the Public Works are going to work with the homeowner and provide any assistance, that should be in the ordinance, because although we say it and we may have that intentions by certain people here now, this thing will be a long-standing ordinance, and it does not reflect what I believe is the spirit of what you just said, and I agree, and we were all under the understanding. The other issue is the ice is an immediate issue, but just some standing water. Let me give you a quick example, Dr. Chase, and I appreciate your input on this. If somebody is got a 300, 400 a neighbor 300 or 400 feet down the road, and for some reason that curb is way off or something, or some other reason would create a puddling effect, the homeowner that has the right gravity, the right drain situation with a sub pump, who normally would not have an issue, could then be held to have to completely change what they have because of a curbing area or another, or a macadam area where we have raised the macadam near someone else's driveway, et cetera. So if the icing, so my suggestion would be this, to put into the ordinance something about the Public Works working with the homeowner to find a resolution. I thought they would even provide some assistance and deal with the ice issue now. And then when we take a look at if we can improve some of the other issues where it's just standing water, and not ice, obviously, in the warmer months, we can be a little fairer to the residents who've had long-term sub pumps, but because of other issues, now may have to completely change their whole drainage system for, sub pump related water, which is simply rainwater. So is there any middle ground here in your opinion that we can deal with the immediate danger, but put in the ordinance something about the township's assistance?
So I think that might be an attorney question.
Well, I think I'd like to just offer something for that. I don't think it's appropriate, and I think the township attorney will say that it's not appropriate for the township to do work on private property to people's private drainage. We can facilitate its connection to an existing catch basin or drain pipe, or we can make suggestions that the pipe be taken out to a yard drain or drain out to a different part of their property. But the township really can't facilitate that work. We don't go onto people's private property to do work. This isn't where there's a granted easement or anything like that. This is their drainage, and it's their property which is constituting a hazard. This happens in other applications. It's not just with sump pumps. When someone's property, when there's something on someone's property that then something happens to cause a hazard or cause a dangerous condition, we have ordinances that allow us to address that, and this is the case. There is no ordinance to address it. If it was a property maintenance issue, we wouldn't be having this discussion. If someone has a dead tree on their property and it's going to fall on their next door neighbor's house, we have an ordinance. We don't go cut it down. We tell them you have to go get someone to cut it down. There's many things that happen on private property that then the township issues notices that they need to correct those issues, and I think this is just another one. I think the issue here is that we've made the indication that we'll allow them to connect to our systems within the right-of-way if they have the ability to do that, but that might not be the method to satisfy this.
Respond to the manager, please.
Yes, absolutely. Mr.
So,
President.
okay, so Bob, let me ask you, we in the last decade or so have gone about and done repaving in a way in certain areas where there are sub pumps, where we don't mill like we used to, and then we end up with these higher than normal asphalt areas, macadam areas in front of certain people's driveways and certain areas that are curbing. What I'm saying is if there's a resident, whether they're 50 feet or 500 feet from there, and water's coming out, and what used to be a normal gravity flow discharge that goes into the storm drain like they did for decades, but because of either a curb not being repaired or kept upright, or macadam being dealt with in a different way than it was for decades, and I've lived here for 50-plus years, that all of a sudden that person could be held accountable because there's a puddle of standing water, forget the ice for a minute, in an area that they didn't do anything different, but because we either don't enforce or have done certain curb work or doing our macadam different in the last 10 years, and I'll gladly go out and show you areas where this exists, that person could, by way of what's worded here, could be held accountable to completely redo their system. And I think there's an element of that that is unfair, and even if it's just a handful of people, we should be more diligent in how we write this and have certain exemptions where we will go and correct something that is a result of something we've done infrastructurally, or maybe a law that we haven't enforced being where certain curbs people are supposed to be responsible for, or certain aprons that people are supposed to be responsible for. I'll gladly walk out there with you and show you examples of what I'm talking about.
There's really no reason for you to do that, Councilman. The issue is this. Neither you nor I have our PE in civil engineering. And I don't necessarily agree with your assertion that changing the level of the blacktop will increase the flow outward into the street. If the water is flowing out of a pipe and a curb, it's going out into the street, and I don't know, it's a matter of volume more than a matter of the blacktop on the road, but I'm not an engineer, and I'm not going to pretend to be one here. I don't know that that's the issue. The issue here is that in particular, a private drainage system is causing a hazardous condition on a public road.
Okay.
And that is something that needs to be addressed, and I don't think it's appropriate for the township to get involved in modifying private drainage systems that are discharging into a public right-of-way and constituting a hazard.
The attorney has something to say.
A couple of things. First, and maybe I'm coming at this from a different point of view. Arguably, it's illegal to do it now, even though we don't have an ordinance, because you can't run a pipe under the township right-of-way through a township curb into the township street now without our permission as it is. So almost all of those are currently illegal. That's the first thing. The second thing is that whatever condition is created is a condition that is probably creates a liability issue for the property owner and creates a liability issue for us to the extent that we know that these things exist and we haven't done anything. So this ordinance, as I saw it, is just an ordinance that kind of codifies what I believe to be the current status of the law, which is that you don't have a right to pipe your sump pump into the public street through the curb or in any manner currently. So I think that generally, that's probably the case because you're creating a dangerous condition. Secondly, I just want to address the suggestion for an amendment to this ordinance. I don't know how you amend an ordinance that prohibits something by saying, and if you're found to have violated it, well, first, we give you 30 days to correct it, that the Public Works Department is then going to work with you in a manner so that to help you not violate it anymore. That's not, then we don't have an ordinance anymore. It's fundamentally not. It could be a policy to do that, and the township manager in the first year of this ordinance being in effect could say to people, before we write violations, what we're going to do is meet with people and try to suggest, alternatives for them. But I think that just from a drafting point of view, I have up the violation and penalty provision where it says that the requirements of the ordinance are enforced by Public Works and that they'll give you 30 days notice. Typically, the way you do what you want to achieve, Councilman Vasanella, is that you have a cure period and you don't make people automatically in violation. Now, maybe the cure period's 45 days and gives them more time, but fundamentally, this activity is illegal and dangerous now, in my opinion. And if your sump pump pumped out into a street and it froze and you did it and you'd be liable, we'd probably, from a property maintenance point of view, probably be able to go in and stop you as it is. So this is really just making it clear to people that they have that responsibility.
So take it into account, and like you said, and like my original goal was to just make it as fair as possible. So 30 days may seem like a lot, but if we can give them a little bit more of a buffer to work out a solution. And the other thing, I just want to be clear to the manager, I wasn't suggesting we go on private property and work. What I'm saying is where we can in the roadway to make it more of for any running water, not just for sub pumps, because there's areas in certain parts of town that I'm aware of where water puddles because we have infrastructural issues. So I'm not talking about going on private property, but if we can do a better job and be helpful for the flow of water in general, because even the rainwater, even when it's on a sub pump, is puddling in certain areas that I'm aware of, and I'd like us to be more proactive with that. So if we can have a longer period of time for the homeowner to find a remedy, then I would be okay with moving this forward.
Okay.
And a general policy, it doesn't have to be in the ordinance, but a policy that will try to at least assist them in solutions.
So, Mr. Manager, both Mr. Chase and I have had the drainage, the roadside drainage that goes under our driveway, the pipes collapse, and we both bought pipes and the town installed them.
It's in the public right-of-way.
And right, and I was told, it better be right, that they do this for any citizen.
And we do.
So is that an ordinance? Is that is that an ordinance, or is that policy?
Well, that's policy, and the reason for that policy is that pipe that runs under your driveway is part of our drainage system.
Okay.
All right, so the alternative, if you don't want to go buy that pipe for us to install, we have an alternative. It's called excavating the end of your driveway and continuing the ditch across where your driveway is that exists to the upper and lower side of it. So that's the alternative. That's why we say to homeowners, if you want that collapsed pipe replaced, it needs to be replaced. If you buy the pipe, we'll put it in for you, and that's the reason why.
So the point I'm,
Yes,
point
I
I'm getting
understand
is
your point.
that we have a policy that assists with that, and you're saying we'll have a policy that will assist with this.
Correct, and we have that policy now.
Right, okay.
If someone comes to us and says, I'm tired of my sump pump pumping out into my street in front of my driveway and causing ice, can I connect to that catch basin a couple, feet down? We say yes, and we facilitate
So,
that.
Mr. Vasanella, would you like to make a motion?
As long as I hear that policy in place, because it's not spelled out here, and I am fine, but I would like to make a motion to amend it to a 45-day period to find a remedy.
We have a
I think that's reasonable.
We have a second on that motion.
Second.
Seconded.
So we now have an amendment to the motion to change the grace period to 45 days. Any other discussion on that?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just, I've made a comment to the manager that I'd like the word manger replaced with the word manager throughout the document.
So for what it's worth, we all chuckled about that down here. It does
I
spell
vote
it.
no.
And so what you're looking at on your computer is not the official document that the clerk submits as the official document.
All right, so that, I don't think we need a vote on that. But we do have to vote on the 45-day amendment. We are voting now to amend the motion, not the motion itself. Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Okay.
Councilman Onijaga,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Got a good header.
All joking aside, thank you for standing up for the citizens. And now,
Thank you, Mayor.
on the original amended now motion, is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Onijaga,
Yes.
Councilman Prasad,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson,
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella,
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, only 5 more pages to go. Ordinance 42, 45, 18, we're on item C, correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Yes, 42, 45, 18, establish an online exchange zone for internet-based transactions at the Township of Franklin Municipal Complex. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, October 9th, 2018 at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Do I have a motion to introduce?
Motion, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Galatier, do you have any discussion on this item? I bet you do.
I do, Mr. Mayor. Real briefly, again, given the time. So the reason that this ordinance was requested, and the reason we're bringing this up is this is something that's in other towns already have. That basically, given the prevalence and the expansion of online transactions like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, and others, what the goal here is to set up a spot within the municipal parking lot near the public safety building that the police department the police department would essentially have a camera on it, not for the police to help with the transaction, but more that residents can feel safe doing a transaction. We've heard of transactions going wrong, and this way it gives a little more reassurance that that you're setting up a place that's neutral, that's monitored, and if for some reason somebody were to try to do something, there would be somebody nearby to assist rather than waiting for assistance. So again, this is something that I brought up early on and felt passionate about, that I think this really is something that help make our residents safer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion?
This is his first ordinance.
Any further discussion that we care about, Mr. Manager?
And I wrote it in Marlboro 2 years ago, but that's okay. Just for the record.
Thank you for copying it over here.
Any further important discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase,
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
This is the most I've used the gavel ever. Ordinance 424618, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey to address requirements regarding compliance with the municipality's prior round and third round affordable housing obligations. Foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, October 9th, 2018 at 7 p.m. at the municipal complex. Do I have a motion on the item? Motion
So
to
moved.
Seconded.
moved and seconded. Mr. Attorney, in a sentence or two.
I think actually Councilman Chase summarized it pretty well. These are just technical changes to our ordinance to comply with our settlement of our Mount Laurel case.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri? Yes. Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Ordinance 424718, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 112, 112, Development, Article 33, Affordable Housing Development Fees. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Thursday, November 9th, 2018 at 7 p.m.
November 8th. I'm sorry. It should be 8th.
It should be October 8th.
No, it should be November 8th because this is an amendment to the land use and we
Oh,
need more time.
November 8th, 2018 at 7 p.m. at the municipal complex. Do I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So basically, when a developer develops property, we are allowed to charge a fee to go into our trust fund of, well, what we've been doing is 1%. The state allows 1.5%, and this is increasing that to 1.5%. Any other discussion? Hearing, seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri? Yes. Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Consent agenda. The items A through X as listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting are presented to the Township for adoption. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Would anyone like to bring out any particular item? It is 10:15 and we have an executive session.
I just have a question on F. What exactly is at that address, 64 Veronica?
It's an office building.
I know.
I'm sure it's an office building. What's that?
I just want to make sure I don't have a conflict of interest.
Oh, I know what you're saying, but I don't think that's you.
We're 59, I know, there's
No,
another.
Arctic Land Corporation, so that's
That's-
not,
okay.
no, you have no conflict.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, Mr. Wright.
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if this looks like Jimmy or not. Resolution 18369, Stormwater Detention Facility Maintenance with Felix Rodriguez for Jeremy Court. What exactly is that? Oh, he's talking to Jimmy.
I can certainly guess at that is,
The detention basin.
we take over the detention basin and we maintain detention basins.
Correct.
Is that a private residence or?
No, that's, Jimmy Court is about a dozen houses.
And if it's connected to our system, we have some obligation to maintain it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want to bring up item R, Mr. Wright?
I have so many of these wrapped up. Sure, bring up item R.
No, you want to, because it's about lawn repair at Middlebush Park, natural
Yeah.
green, not to exceed.
But that's being mowed by some.
So that project was discussed at some length during the budget process. This is all of those areas that should look like green grass that don't at Middle Bush Park because the topsoil had been stripped and the clay and shale had been left behind and no grass will grow on. And I had made the suggestion rather than putting in pavers or things like that, that maybe we try to strip back some of the shale and clay and bring in a layer of topsoil and hydroseed it and see if we can get some grass to grow there like a park should have. So this is all of those areas that when you look at that aerial are orange and they should be green. So that's what this is.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other items on the consent agenda? If not, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Basanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
We have no resolutions to be voted on separately. Does anyone have a nomination for any boards, committees, commissions, justices of the peace, Supreme Court nominations? None. Okay, moving on. Executive session, the authorized, Resolution 18371, authorized executive session, land transfer with Franklin Township Board of Education, Route 27, Amwell Road, anticipated land acquisition, Lewis Street, anticipated litigation, contract negotiation, agreement between Township and Community Foundation in regards to the Peace and Nonviolence Memorial. Do we have a motion to enter executive session?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion on entering this executive session, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait, we have to do roll call, sorry. Madam Clerk?
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay. It says here, at this time, the Township Council will adjourn to the executive session to discuss the above-mentioned items for the executive session. No other actions will be taken by the Township Council at the conclusion of the executive session. Therefore, the recording of this meeting will now end. Be well, Franklin.